You guys want to see something wild before we start this video? This is the video, right? If we go over to a website that no one's talked about in the last, I don't know, 6 years plus, one Speed Demos Archive, it's not even going to show up. SDA forum, right? We're looking at the BioShock. You can see some Welcome to Rapture here, and you scroll down. Oh, my cropping of this is not good. You guys can't even see what I'm trying to show. Let me fix that issue. Aha! Look, it's me, BloodThunder, no image. And we scroll over to the side. And you see this? 2013. I started running BioShock in early 2013. Nearly 9 years, actually over 9 years of playing this game. So, what we're here to do, I gotta recrop this in a second. So we're gonna watch Mr. Tomatoanus's BioShock Speedrun Explained video, which I'm sure he's done a fantastic job on. Stuff I've watched in the past has been brilliant. Gonna watch this. See? How speedrunners beat BioShock in under 30 minutes. Speedrun Explained. Before you're like, oh, he didn't like the video. This is on my second account. This is my VOD archive channel. I liked it on the main one, but I can like it again, you know, just for the one time. Boop. Give it that. Look at that. Look at all these great other videos he has. Fantastic stuff. All right, let me recrop this and we'll start. Yeah, this should walk us through the any % run of this game, which I have done so many times over the past 9 years. If you're new around here, just hopping in. I've performed BioShock at Games Done Quick events 3 separate times. In 2014, I think in 2016, and then 2020, something like that. Several different times. May be familiar with the Windows 10 cutscene prank. The Skyrim cutscene prank. Did it twice. Surprise, surprise. Yeah, I haven't helped out with this video. I haven't helped out with the script. Or, I did get a little heads up this was coming like 2 weeks ago. Me and Tomato were talking. He's like, hey, my next video is on BioShock. And I was like, wow, that's a shocking revelation. And then he didn't talk to me after that. And I did talk to him about watching this, and he said it's okay to watch it on stream with you fine folks. So, not stepping on any toes here. Just want to make sure he gets all the credit. You, here, I'll even link this in chat if you want to go give it a like. Leave him a nice comment saying that his hair smells nice or something like that, you know, just make his day. And we'll watch it, you know. I might get nitpicky with this, depending on what is said. Like I said, I've been running this game for 9 years. If you go back and look at this SDA forum, I was the first one to do a single segment run of this game. Back then, everything was segmented, usually, in terms of speedruns. So there's people, they play like one level or parts of a level until it's perfect, and then they move on to the next one and then put it all together. And then I came along and I was like, that sounds like a lot of work. Let me just do it in one sitting. Help to introduce a lot of different tricks into the run. Fort Frolic skip back in the day really helped out with Arcadia skip, a lot of the diary warp, stuff like that. So I'm excited to see what he has to say.
Known as the 5-balled miracle baby, and this is a segmented any percent speedrun.
Let's go back to the beginning.
My name's Tomatoanus, also known as the 5-balled miracle baby, and this is a segmented any percent speedrun of BioShock.
Oh, okay. So this was a segmented run that KPC did. Okay. I guess he made it specifically for the video so it doesn't have splits and the camera and that kind of stuff. Cool.
By KPC Zombie, a top runner for the game who helped me write the script to make sure it's all as accurate as possible. If you'd prefer to watch either this run without commentary or KPC's current personal best, they're both linked in the description, and so is the current glitchless world record by Prisoner, since this is an any percent run and glitches are allowed, and I know that glitches aren't everyone's cup of tea. Also worth noting is that this is a run of the original 2007 release and not the 2016 remaster, since a lot of glitches don't work in the remaster. To start the run, KPC loads a pre-made save, which is standard in the BioShock speedrunning community, skipping right to when he gains control after the 80-second intro plane crash cutscene. Right away, he cuts a corner through some fire, but luckily it won't kill us since you can't die in this intro part.
Yeah, let me fix that cropping. That is going to drive me crazy too. You are right. I had it so perfectly cropped before. Now it's ruined. There we go.
Without using glitches. Speaking of, when KPC goes inside the lighthouse in front of him, he'll navigate in the dark a little, and then he's going to perform the first glitch of the run, but not the glitch that will kill us. In the lighthouse...
To be honest, I don't even know of a glitch that will kill you in this intro. I don't even think using console commands like the kill command will work. So if there is a trick there, I am not aware of it.
House is a bathysphere that we're going to ride down to enter Rapture, the city where the game takes place. To ride the bathysphere, all you need to do is enter it and pull the lever to activate it. KPC will perform what's called bathysphere skip by standing in the bathysphere facing the lever, walking backwards.
I've never heard it called bathysphere skip. It does skip stuff and a bathysphere. So I guess it's a pretty accurate name if I had to come up with one. I don't know if anyone's ever really called it that before. Once again, if you're coming in, you're like, wow, this guy is just picking apart everything. Yeah, I'm gonna nitpick stuff just because I can.
To exit, jumping, and pulling the lever while in air. The game takes away our movement as soon as we pull the lever, but because we're moving backwards and we're in air when we do so, our momentum carries us to just outside of the bathysphere, causing us to ride on top of it rather than in it while we travel to Rapture. This lasts for the entire bathysphere ride, which is several minutes long, and puts us higher up than we're supposed to be, letting us see some things during this segment that we're not supposed to see since we have a 360-degree view and aren't limited to just looking out the window. At the end of the ride, the bathysphere will rise up into the loading zone to the next area, and because we're on top of the bathysphere, we hit the loading trigger slightly earlier than if we were inside of it, saving around 3 seconds overall. Now that we've covered a bit of tech and are in a cutscene, let's...
Nice sponsored segment.
What you doing? Hey Minnesota guy, remember how I won $1 million and went on Shark Tank to fund me buying a time machine? Well, I decided that was a dumb idea and decided to finance my passion.
True story about this. Tomato's actually this tall in real life. If you saw his run at GDQ, the Fallout Anthology, where I met him, he's actually like this tall. He's like 4'5".
Project movie I'm writing, Romeo and Juliet 2. Wait, how does that work? Well, there's 32 instances of full frontal nudity. What? Anyway, I'm writing the pivotal scene between Mecha Shakespeare and Juliet II, and it's a product placement scene. Any ideas for character lines? The brand is Keeps. Oh, the subscription service that helps men keep their hair with clinically proven research-backed treatments to stop hair loss and improve hair growth? Yep. I was thinking that after Mercutio's pagan resurrection that he'd have a receding hairline. You know, because of the worms. Right, the worms. So I think Juliet II should suggest she bring up to Mercutio that Keeps provides 24/7 care and support, with each treatment plan connecting you to a network of medical advisors, specialists, and prescribers who will help you pick the right products and treatments for you and your hair goals. Do you think we should show the before and after photos? Which ones? These ones. Yeah, I like.
Whoa, that could be me.
How about Mecha Shakespeare then mentions how everything your hair needs gets delivered straight to your door? Oh, for sure. And how they give refill reminders so you never run low on product. And that all their treatment plans are doctor recommended. And that it's about half the cost of a traditional pharmacy. Man, we're good at this. Ooh. And have them say how hair loss stops with Keeps, and you can get 50% off your first order if you go to keeps.com/tomato or click the link in the description. That's keeps.com/tomato. Do you think that Mecha Shakespeare and Juliet II could...
I'm gonna give it a less than stellar score. It's Tomato and not keeps.com/anus. Like, that'd be so much better.
hug at the end of the scene? That might be a little weird.
Of Tomato?
Mecha Shakespeare is completely naked
in
this scene. Are we married to the nudity idea? Oh yeah, I mean, that's the whole point of the movie. The nudity is the point, but what about the art of it all and telling the story you want to tell? Fuck art, I'm all about dick. Sorry about that, got cut off there. Let's intro the game a bit. So if you've never played BioShock before, it's a first-person shooter with RPG and stealth elements that takes place in Rapture, a massive underwater city founded by someone named...
Alright, okay, just take a shot every time I nitpick something. It's just an immersive sim. You just could have just said that. Nothing against them. It is an FPS game with RPG mechanics and stealth mechanics and horror elements. I think it's just generally defined as an immersive sim.
Ayn Rand, I mean Andrew Ryan. The city's sole purpose was to serve as a utopia for society's elite, free of government control, religious institutions, and things like what Andrew Ryan refers to as petty morality when it comes to things like science experiments. This philosophy led to remarkable advances in the arts and sciences like plasmids, which are serums that you use throughout the game that grant the user powers like telekinesis and pyrokinesis. This philosophy also led to there being no publicly funded social programs, with things like the city's firefighters and oxygen supply being privately owned. There was eventually a societal collapse, leaving Rapture a war-torn, crumbling, wet dystopia. A physical manifestation of Ryan's short-sighted philosophy, but also a direct result of a conflict between Ryan himself, conman/businessman Frank Fontaine, who died in a police shootout, and later a man named Atlas, who rose up from amongst the poor after Fontaine's death and led a violent revolution against Ryan. In BioShock, we play as Jack, just a guy who is on a plane that crashed in the ocean near a lighthouse and is now about to enter Rapture proper. Over the span of 14 locations that serve as levels, we'll
okay. Take another shot. I'm nitpicking. In the speedrun, you never go to farmer's market. That's entirely skipped. You never set foot, you never load into farmer's market. You go from Arcadia Street to Fort Frolic. Maybe like he'll mention that or something. And then yeah, crash site, the map you're on would be number 1. So 14 levels, yes, but you would take away farmer's market and include crash site?
Traverse Rapture guided by Atlas via radio as we seek out to stop Andrew Ryan from being a bad dude. The speedrunning community counts this intro crash site level as just part of the Welcome to Rapture level, which is why...
Depends entirely on who you ask. Me personally, I've always put them separate. I know a lot of people do include crash site and Welcome to Rapture splits just because it never really changes and you're only going to see like 2-second difference in splits because of just the one skip. Whether you get it or not determines your time on the map, so it's not a big change. 15 maps. Well, yeah, in total you'd have 15 maps, but in the speedrun you see 14 because you never go to farmer's market.
Why you don't see it included?
If you do a different category, he mentioned the glitchless run earlier. If you're talking about that, then yes, or no plasmids. Something like that would be 15 maps.
On the list. These locations/levels will serve as our to-do list throughout the run and will act as a
Yo, Mike, what's up, dude?
Sort of guide for how far in the run and game we are, which, speaking of, we're approaching the end of the bathysphere.
Is that the Mike from many years past? Of Wolfenstein fame?
Ride where we'll enter the first real level. When we load in, another cutscene will play with us now inside of the bathysphere, watching a
I wouldn't stop this just to talk to Mike, but I will. For anyone that's been a long-term fan of the channel, you may remember when I had 360p cameras and all this stuff, which when I first started running BioShock was the case. He is the developer from the Wolfenstein games that sent me the package, the t-shirt, and the bag, and the signed poster that I have somewhere. So shout outs to Mike for being awesome. Long time no see.
A guy named Johnny get killed by a
back this up because I was
the end of the bathysphere ride where we'll enter the first real level. When we load in, another cutscene will play with us now inside of the bathysphere, watching a guy named Johnny get killed by a splicer despite him having a gun to defend himself. Splicers are remnants of Rapture's population that got super hooked on the stuff that's in plasmids, which is called Atom. Atom use skyrocketed during Rapture Civil War, causing a lot of citizens to become hooked on it, deforming both their mind and body. So, like I mentioned a moment ago, talking about the game setup, we're guided by Atlas over radio, with us picking up the radio in a moment to begin communications. Atlas will be the friendly voice in our ear throughout the game, kindly asking us to complete tasks, which are the player's objectives. We're asked to pick up the radio on the wall, and KPC positioned himself so that you can still see the splicer when he grabs the radio, so that you at home can see the splicer despawn. He then gets ready to exit the bath.
Yeah, I don't know why the splicer despawns. It's always a thing. It happens. This is a problem with me and watching Tomato's videos, is he does such a good job of just talking and being so silky smooth that sometimes I forget even what he's saying. It's like when you're reading a book and you're so concentrated on the act of reading that you forget what you just read. It's like me watching these videos. I'm like, I don't remember what he just said because I'm just listening. But But yeah, just some lore stuff.
The sphere, and will complete the magic trick by looking on top of it as soon as he exits to make the splicer reappear, only to disappear again immediately afterward. We then get moving through the level, and I know that the run is off to a really slow start, but like the kitten from the poster, just hang in there, baby. Real soon we're going to be doing a major glitch, and from that point on, the run really gets moving. When Atlas asks us to find a crowbar or something in a moment, KPC will then be able to interact with the nearby wrench, which he'll use to bash through fucking concrete. He'll then run up some stairs and do something called couch strat, where he'll intentionally take damage from the fire on a couch that's thrown down the stairs at him. This pulls aggro from the splicer that KPC has to kill at the top of the stairs and makes the splicer come towards us instead of standing across the room, saving about 2 seconds of walking. KPC is now going to perform the first big trick of the run, Electro Bolt Skip. We're about to interact with the Gatherer's Garden machine where we'll get our first plasmid, Electro Bolt, which lets us roleplay as Sheev. Normally when you interact with the Gatherer's Garden, a cutscene plays of us shoving a rusty needle into our arm, injecting the serum, then having a bad trip, but waking up with superpowers. This both sounds and is long, but luckily there's a way around it. Brief tangent, let's talk about...
Okay, this is the trick that anytime I do a run of BioShock gets the most questions, so I'm really curious as to how he's going to break it down. I even have a command, if you want to see it. Exclamation, I think it still works. Jump. Yeah. I have to make a command for this, so I am curious about this and many others. And how he's going to explain this properly.
Input buffering. Input buffering is where you're able to send an input to a game while something is going on, for example during an animation, and the game holds on to that input somewhere in its memory. That held input is then executed as soon as the animation ends, typically on the first frame. BioShock also has input buffering, but instead of buffering inputs during an animation, inputs are buffered during the quick save screen, with the inputs being executed in order as soon as the quick save screen goes away. Back to the Gatherer's Garden machine, when you interact with it to trigger the cutscene, the game takes away control and drags you to the exact location you need to be in for the cutscene to start and play out. Instead, for Electro Bolt Skip, KPC will stand in front of the Gatherer's Garden and quick save. Then, during the quick save, he'll press E and then escape to buffer the inputs in that order. When the quick save screen goes away, the E input will be executed on the first frame to interact with the Gatherer's Garden, and on the very next frame, the escape input will be executed. This pulls up the pause menu after the cutscene starts, but before the game has a chance to take away control. Normally, you can't make saves.
One thing I'm not sure of, and maybe this is something KPC knows that I don't. I always thought it was the same frame and not subsequent frames. Maybe that is the case, and it's something that I always misunderstood. So it's not 1 frame, 2 frame, 3 frames. Like you can't do like 100 inputs and then it's going to take 100 frames to do that. I don't believe. I think it all happens on the same frame. Because the old way of doing the skip without pause buffering was to literally press use and escape at like the exact same time. So you'd do both interactions simultaneously, which I think is the same as what buffering does. It just gives you a bigger window to do it, I believe. I could be wrong. Like I said, KPC might understand it more. I've just never heard that explanation. Either way, it's the same thing. You're basically picking it up and saving at the same time. Which usually when you go to, once you've picked it up, it completely removes your ability to save. So you can't do this trick. Happens between frames, the subframes. It's gone squishy.
During cutscenes, but thanks to the nearly frame-perfect input buffering, the game lets us save after the cutscene starts, which KPC will do, and then he'll load it right away. Saving and loading like this will give KPC control of the character, even though he's technically in a cutscene and not supposed to have control. The thing is though, even though he'll have control, the game will still want to drag him to the cutscene initiation point, so him moving around is going to be a constant fight against the game, with him having to jump constantly to make any real progress away from the Gatherer's Garden machine like it's some sort of SCP object. Also, something worth noting is that when the game is pulling you to the Gatherer's Garden, it's pulling you straight at it. It doesn't care about walls or doors or anything between you and the Gatherer's Garden. The game will attempt to pull you in a straight line back to the Gatherer's Garden, so it's not like KPC can use the pulling to his advantage in any way. Well, at least for the most part. Despite it constantly trying to pull us back to the Gatherer's Garden, Electro Bolt Skip entirely skips the cutscene along with another that we'll get into in a bit, and overall saves around 3 minutes. Interacting with the...
I was going to say something I instantly forgot. Yeah, so it's a question that also goes along with anytime someone sees a skip of why don't you just turn around if it's pulling you backwards. It's not pulling you back, like you said, it's pulling you straight to the Gatherer's Garden. So whatever angle you're at, it's pulling you towards that way. It doesn't matter if you're facing towards it, away from it, whatever. That is a very common question asked about it.
The Gatherer's Garden for the glitch still gives us the Electrobolt plasmid, so after performing the input buffer and loading the save, KPC goes to do a 360 no-scope to shock the control panel to open the door since he played a lot of COD back in the day but wasn't able to get the shock out in time. Also, I've animated a little map to show our position relative to the Gatherer's Garden so you have a general idea of our position in the level compared to it and how we're getting pulled.
It's kind of covered up by my webcam, but yeah, there's a pretty cool map. Kind of wish there was a little mini map in game, honestly.
Thing worth mentioning is that KPC has his scroll wheel bound to jump, so he just gives it a little scroll every time he's about to land to make sure he spends as little time on the ground getting dragged as possible. Right now, we're just trying to get through this level in these rooms as quickly as possible with KPC focusing on hitting script triggers to progress. Here he hits a trigger and then lets the game drag him back towards the entrance of the room, causing a splicer to spawn that he has to kill to move on. After letting the game drag him back to the room's center, he kills a splicer that opens up a door leading to the rest of the level. In this next room, rather than deal with the nearby splicer, we keep trucking forward. We have to wait for this door to open before we can go any farther in the level, but once it does open, then we can hop into the elevator to ride it up, and holy fuck, that splicer's on fire. While we go up, it's worth mentioning that Electrobolt skip is actually pretty difficult for new runners. The reason why it's so hard has nothing to do with the input buffering or anything like that. The difficulty of it comes from if you land on practically anything on the floor, you get flung backwards. Like, seriously, practically anything. To get good at this part, you have to learn where every little thing is on.
Yeah, this is something usually not talked about when talking about Electrobolt skip, but yeah, like that hat or anything on the floor, if you hit it, you lose like momentary control and you can't jump anymore, so it's just pulling you back substantially. So a big part of it is actually avoiding stuff on the ground. There's not a ton in your way, like all this stuff on the left doesn't matter because you just want to go through here. But this hat can fuck you up. If you kill a splicer, their mask or their weapon on the floor can fuck you up.
On the ground and avoid it all. Top runners make it look super easy, but that's only because they've done so many attempts that they've been flung back hundreds, if not thousands of times and have learned exactly where everything is and how to avoid it all. So Atlas has tasked us with trying to find and save his family who are located in an area called...
So, I'll try to go back a frame, just to indicate this point. When you're dealing with this splicer, let's see, let's go back even further. So you want to kill the splicer and get the
save his family.
The pistol from here, but this splicer wears a bird mask, which you can see
who are located in an area
right here on the ground. A lot of times you'll go the other way because it's a little bit faster than waiting at the corner than going here. Like this landing in this one spot, if he'd gone the other way around the carriage, he might have landed on. It's something to like watch out when you're running.
Area called Neptune's Bounty, so that's where we're headed now. You might have noticed by now that our HUD is gone, and that's because we're technically in the Gatherer's Garden cutscene. Like, the game thinks it's playing out in the background, we just have control during it. There's another cutscene in the next room, but we can't enter that room until this cutscene is over in the background, else the game will soft lock. Right when that cutscene is about to end, KPC jumps into the next room to start the next cutscene, pauses, saves, and loads again. This gives him full control again, but this cutscene is one where we typically have total control aside from having access to our weapons. We need a weapon to break a lock on the gate to exit this area, so by doing the save thing to get full control and access to our weapons again, we can break the lock and leave this area without watching the full cutscene. This combined with skipping the original Gatherer's Garden cutscene is what adds up to the approximate 3-minute time save. After taking out 2 splicers at once by shocking the water beneath them, KPC will hop to the door to Neptune's Bounty, which is blocked, but being near it initiates the final fight sequence of the level where we'll kill 1 splicer followed by 2 waves of 2. After killing the 1 rogue splicer first, KPC then stands in a specific spot to get himself caught on a little ledge so that he doesn't get dragged across the room from the Gatherer's Garden's sultry allure. He then takes out the remaining splicers while camping in this corner since, again, he played a lot of COD back in the day. After killing the last splicer, he then jumps into a lip on...
He didn't mention it, and it's something that like never matters at all, but you notice it once you play the game a lot. when you're standing on this corner, because of the skip, you can kind of notice it when you're shooting here. But the crosshair will slowly move to the left, just drifting. Like if you have like a controller stick drift, it'll do that even on mouse and keyboard because of the skip, which makes it really annoying to try to get these headshots.
Slicer, he then jumps into a lip on the wall and holds forward.
Let me go back a couple seconds.
He then takes out the remaining splicers while...
So you can see it like slowly fading left, and he'll like keep moving it back right.
Camping in this corner since, again, he played a lot of COD back in the day. After killing the last splicer, he then jumps into a lip on the wall and holds forward into the gate to the medical pavilion, which is the next level, causing him to jitter around a bit until the gate opens and he can move forward. To finish the level, rather than walking up to the exit and watching another cutscene play out, KPC will instead electrobolt the end of level door, which instantly ends the level and skips the cutscene, saving around a minute. This was found years back when a QA tester for the game went into a speedrunner's chat and told them about it existing as a dev tool that was never removed. In the next...
So, okay. It was from a dev who found it. He did not come in any speedrunner's chat. I actually watched a video. I don't know if that video still exists. I need to track it down. But I think JB LeBreton or JP, I honestly forget. It might be P. Was doing a stream of playing through the games, and he was one of the QA testers, I believe, or one of the lead designers. Honestly, this was back in like 2013. So even I'm a little fuzzy in the details, but I went and found the playthrough and he was talking about it. He never approached us in any way, sadly. I did try to get him on a GDQ run of BioShock 2, and then unfortunately like timing didn't work out and he couldn't get in by the time the run started.
Next area, we have to do a hacking minigame right away to progress through the level, but the pattern in the game is the same every run, so KPC's muscle memory makes quick work of it. He then leaves the splicer he passes here every run. We have to do a hacking minigame right away to progress through the level, but the pattern in the game is the same every run, so
It is, as long as you start the game, restart the game between every attempt. So if you do a full run, or if you even get past this part and then you reset, if you don't close the game, this pattern will change. It's based on some seeding of how many times you've interacted with the puzzle. Without reloading. So if you like did this puzzle, then reloaded the start of medical, I believe it would still be the same. But it will change if you do subsequent runs in a row. So it's like, once you've restarted the game, it'll be the same every time.
KPC's muscle memory makes quick work.
But once again, I'm nitpicking. Just because, you know, accuracy. Why not?
Of it. He then leaves the splicer he passes here alive for a glitch he'll do later to finish the level and heads upstairs where he pulls a switch to open the nearby door and takes out a splicer who is trying to sneak down the other stairs to kill the splicer we left alive. Our main goal in this level is to get the telekinesis plasmid, which lets us move and throw objects with our mind. To get to the plasmid, we have to traverse the first part of the level, killing splicers when necessary to avoid being body blocked so we can keep moving towards our goal. When this door finally opens, KPC will head through and loot a trash can as he passes it, and then we'll be sure to pick up some armor-piercing rounds that are next to a plant since they'll come in handy later. So the telekinesis plasmid is going to be the main thing we use to perform glitches in the run, and it'll also let us one-shot pretty much every enemy since this run is done on the easiest difficulty and the plasmid is just super overpowered. Before we can get the telekinesis plasmid though, we need to get the pyrokinesis plasmid, which in the game is named Incinerate. The reason we need to get it is because there's ice blocking the way to the telekinesis plasmid that we'll have to melt, but also because we're going to use it to damage ourselves in preparation for a death warp. When you die in this game, you respawn at a nearby Vita chamber without losing any progress, with there being at least 2 chambers per level. Death warps are a way to abuse this and save on walking time by deliberately dying and respawning across the level. Here KPC intentionally...
So not about the death warps, I just want to let him finish talking about that. If we didn't need, if Incinerate didn't do self-damage to Death Warp and stuff, you could skip getting Incinerate. There's a very old trick, I don't know if I can find it, it might be in the SDA forums, known as Incinerate skip, where you use a flaming splicer that gets flung from that area, and it hits a bucket, and then you smack the bucket with a wrench all the way down the stairs before it goes out. It's a very time-based thing to melt the ice. So you could skip it, it's just not feasible, and it's really slow and finicky, and you'd restart tons of runs, but because we need it for death warping anyways, we pick it up.
lowers his health with incinerate
Tori,
in
what's
preparation
going on?
for the death warp, and also picks up an audio diary for later. Worth mentioning, if you have more than 1 HP and take damage that would kill you, your health instead lowers to 1 HP and you're given a few seconds of invincibility before you're then able to take damage again and die. KPC did this.
So yes, but only the first time in your life. Which is a little confusing when you're getting into speedrunning. So if you take damage and you have more than 1 HP and you get down to 1, you'll have iframes for a little bit, which if you're death warping, you don't want because it's going to be slow. But once you've activated those iframes and you heal back up, if you get down to 1 HP again, it won't give you those iframes again. It'll just kill you. And it sometimes will catch you off guard because you're like, oh, I'm going to have iframes, but you don't because you've already used them and they're going to kill you. And other times you're like, oh, I used those, but you haven't. And then you end up losing time because you're just waiting for iframes to run out.
So that the next instance of damage he takes will kill him, making the dying part of the death warp a bit quicker. There's something else in the game called an item boost where if you walk over an object on the ground that's next to a wall.
An iframe is an invincibility frame. Just means that you have invincibility for X amount of frames. Usually it's like in reference to like fighting bosses in games. Like if you take damage, you're going to have iframes for a little bit. So they're not going to hit you just a ton, or the boss will have iframes once you hit them to stop them from just being comboed to death.
While you're semi-facing the wall, you get a little speed boost, and if you jump as you do it, then your speed boost turns into a little launch. After grabbing the telekinesis plasmid, KP...
Those little, the item boosts, this is also FPS dependent. The higher your FPS, the more you'll get boosted. And like spamming jump also helps. You usually don't see item boost done unless you're going for like a really good time, because usually you're not going to get them. They're not that consistent. Some of them are, some of them aren't. And then there's some really crazy ones that could be done if you have like really high FPS and care to like lose your run every single run.
That's next to a wall. While you're semi-facing the wall, you get a little speed boost, and if you jump as you do it, then your speed boost turns into a little launch. After grabbing the telekinesis plasmid, KPC will shoot fire into a corner and use a tennis ball on the floor next to the wall to item boost into the fire, killing him instantly. Dying specifically in this corner respawns him at the Vita chamber near the start of the level, whereas if he dies anywhere else in the room or in a neighboring room, he'd spawn in the other, farther away Vita chamber. Also, normally when you die in this game, there's a couple second animation of the camera going from our body to the Vita chamber. If you die in specific locations though, you get what's called a respawn animation cancel, which skips that camera animation, saving around 2 seconds. This spot where we die in the corner after ramping off the tennis ball is one of those spots where we get the respawn animation cancel, and it's both coincidence and luck that this spot does both that and spawns us at the wrong Vita chamber. While we're paused,
the animation cancel stuff is such a mystery based on like the levels, because there's some really weird spots where you get animation cancels. Usually it's on top of something, on top of some physical object. And there's also stuff to deal with dying once before. So kind of like the iframes. If you die in a level, then you can no longer do any respawn animation cancels. They're just done. Even if you die in the right spot, you'll still get the respawn animation. So it has to be like the first time you do it, and if a level has multiple respawn animation cancels, if you mess up any of them, you can't do any of the rest. You have to get every subsequent one for like the future ones to work, which is really weird, but this game's also really weird.
Let's talk about that glitch that we left that splicer at the start of the level alive for. So there's a gate blocking us from leaving the level, and to open it, you have to go through the whole level and have more or less 2 separate boss fights, which sounds slow, so instead, KPC is going to perform a wall clip through the gate. Wall clipping requires the telekinesis plasmid, which is why we couldn't just clip through
2 separate boss fights.
Let's talk about that glitch that we left that splicer at the start of the level alive for. So there's a gate blocking us from leaving the level, and to open it, you have to go through the whole level and have more or less 2 separate boss fights, which sounds slow, so instead,
I mean, yeah, I would never classify anything besides Steinman in the level this fight here as a boss fight. You never throw... You get a grenade from Steinman to open up the gate. You don't fight him there. And then the bot comes after you in the next level to open up the gate to this part. Unless he's referring to the Big Daddy after everything, after like the little sister segment, which I don't think you have to deal with the Big Daddy at all in this level. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure. So I'm not sure what the second boss fight would be here. Don't know.
NPC is going to perform a wall clip through the gate. Wall clipping requires the telekinesis plasmid, which is why we couldn't just clip through earlier when we first got here. To perform a wall clip, you first need to stand on an alive splicer's head. Normally you bounce off of splicers' heads if you try to jump or drop onto them, so to get on their heads safely, you need to walk on top of them from somewhere that's around the same level as the top.
Yeah, so if you've watched my more recent runs, this is something that's very easy to misconstrue of like, oh, you just have to get on top of the splicer's head. But you literally have to walk without any sort of vertical momentum up or down. If there's like a little gap between the stairs and the splicer's head, it probably won't work. It has to be like straight from this hitbox to that hitbox, which makes it really annoying, especially in BioShock 2.
On their head safely, you need to walk on top of them from somewhere that's around the same level as the top of their head. Stairs are always a good place to set this up. Once you walk onto their head, you're on there good. Like, you can get off easily if you'd like by just moving or jumping off, but if you don't move, then you're on there like a freaking helmet. They'll run around and bounce around, and you stay firmly planted on top. Once you're on the splicer's head, the next step is you kill the splicer. Normally, killing a splicer causes them to lose their hitbox, but for some reason, if you're on top of their head and you kill them, then you stay on top of their dead body. You have to be careful with your positioning when killing them though, because if you collide with anything on the way down after killing them, like the weapons they're holding or a mask they're wearing, then you actually get bumped off their body. If you watch actual runs and not a segmented exhibition run like this one, you'll typically see runners make a safety save right after they step onto the splicer, but before they kill them, just in case something goes wrong in the process. Additionally, because we don't want to collide with things like weapons on the way down, you'll typically see KPC stand on the opposite side of splicers from the weapons they hold so that he doesn't collide with the weapon on the way down. So after killing them and staying on top of their dead body, when we then lift and move the body with telekinesis, we move around with it. There's a bit of a system for how to fly around and steer with a dead body. Imagine that somewhere around or just below the splicer's belly button is the body's centroid. When you stand on the centroid and lift the body with telekinesis, the body is lifted off the ground, but remember that we're a fucking helmet, so wherever the body goes, we go, unless we slam into a wall or something and get bumped off. All you really need to do to fly around is stand in the body's center and then move it with telekinesis, causing it and us to fly around in whatever direction we're looking. If you're standing anywhere else on the body that isn't the centroid, then when you lift and move it with telekinesis, then you and the body move in the direction you are relative to the centroid with speed relative to the distance you are from the centroid. Vector. Additionally, whether or not you're crouched when using telekinesis on the body is pretty important. If you're standing up when you use it, then you gain height as you fly, whereas if you're crouched, your flying height remains stable. So once we have the dead splicer on the ground and we're on top of
it's crouching is also safer when killing the splicer, so you'll generally get on top of the splicer's head, crouch, and then do the killing. Just makes it a little bit more consistent. But you can like stand up or crouch mid-flight to change whether you get more height or if you go more horizontal. It's like hardly ever done, but it is a really cool and fun mechanic. I wasn't sure if he was going to bring up the crouching thing, but he did.
Of it, we'll position ourselves to be on the edge of the body closest to the gate. We'll then use telekinesis on the body.
I love these diagrams. They're great. You have all of this detail. I mean, it's like PNGs and stuff, but you have like the stick man. Fantastic. Goes along with his props from the Fallout anthology run.
To throw it into the gate, causing us to clip through and the splicer's body to be left behind on the side we started on. This works because for some reason, the setup of standing on and killing the splicer makes it so that the dead body still has a hitbox while we're on it, even though it shouldn't, but we ourselves do not have a hitbox, so we can go straight through the wall. Once we're through the wall, then we just jump off the body, since we need to do that to be able to move even though we're through the wall and the body isn't, and then we can continue through the level. Performing a wall clip isn't necessarily annoying or hard to perform, but it still isn't the easiest thing to do. Plus, each wall clip is kinda a one-time use since the bodies don't come through the wall with us. One body, one wall. Dems the rules. Except actually for this first clip, the body comes through the gate with us, cause dems the rules. Wall clipping is a relatively recent discovery, with the game having been out for 14 years before it was found. When it was finally discovered, the world record dropped from 38 minutes to where it is now at around 28 minutes, with this first wall clip alone saving around 70 seconds compared to the route without it.
Yeah, the thing with BioShock 1 and 2 speedruns, which this trick also works in BioShock 2, for those that don't know, a lot of stuff was theorized, like we know where the exit is, all that's in the way is a wall. So if we ever found a way out of bounds or to wall clip, we could skip so much, and then behold, we have a method of wall clipping, so we just instantly cut out tons of levels. Because BioShock 1 and 2, Infinite's kind of different in level design, is that the game constantly shows you where you need to go and then locks it away from you. It says, hey, you need to go to this place, but to get here, you have to go deal with this guy or this quest line or whatever. So as long as you have what you need to beat the game, which at this point you do, you have telekinesis, you can just skip through so many levels so quickly by just wall clipping right at the beginning. Or you just get enough from the level and then you're out.
Clipping also works in BioShock 2, and the record in that has dropped by nearly 20 minutes since its discovery with how insane the wall clips in that game are, but that's something for another day. So after he performs the wall clip here, KPC will interact with the bathysphere, bringing him to the next level, Neptune's Bounty, which is where Atlas said his family is. Super early on in this level, KPC is going to run straight past a little sister and Big Daddy as he cuts a corner to go behind them, which is an encounter that was actually in the run when we started work on this video, but there was a route development that required the run to be re-recorded and the script to be changed. Initially, we fought them to harvest Amy Atom from the little sister, which was then used to purchase the target dummy plasmid. Wait, did I say Amy Adams? I meant 80 Atom. The dummy plasmid was used to lure splicers into spots where we can walk onto their heads for wall clips, but KPC and Prisoner routed it out of the run with some splicer baiting tactics that you'll see in a bit, which KPC thinks saves a little over 20 seconds.
So I am curious about this because I haven't seen this run, and I don't know this routing change personally. But even before this, you could kind of just route out target dummy and just use Winter Blast by knowing where they're going to spawn. It is pretty helpful to have target dummy. So I don't know if it's going to be any different than like the route I was using when I stopped running this 6 months ago. So we'll see. I'm curious if it's something new.
Throughout the entire run. After taking this turret out with the armor-piercing rounds he picked up earlier, along with the splicer who's standing around, KPC will then drop down a floor onto a pillar from which he'll walk onto a splicer's head, who he'll then kill to perform a wall clip. KPC will position himself center on the splicer's body and use telekinesis while standing to gain height, then throw himself and the splicer to a door that opens up. He then briefly body surfs through this room before wall clipping on a locked door, saving around 1:50, then
I know this is a segmented run that he put together for this, but man, that was so clean. I could never quite get a clean Neptune's Bounty. Something like that would be amazing.
Deposits his guns in the pneumo tube that stores his weapons temporarily before heading into a mini-boss arena. We still have our plasmids though, so we can use telekinesis to both destroy the security camera here so security bots don't come, and also to kill Peach Wilkins. To get Peachy to come out sooner, KPC will do an audio skip. Audio skips are performed by playing an audio.
They are audio skips. I think they're generally, I've always referred to them as just diary skipping or diary skips. Audio skip would work as well. It may just be a runner by runner sort of thing of what they call it. Like Quantum Conundrum had object hovering, but people called it prop hovering, prop flight, fluffy flying, object flying, whatever, right? Every runner's got like a slightly different thing, but it all means the same thing.
Diary during radio communications, the bots don't come, and also to kill Peach Wilkins. To get Peachy to come out sooner, KPC will do an audio skip. Audio skips are performed by playing an audio diary during radio communications, which interrupts the string of radio messages that was playing. Any triggers that were tied to the end of the radio messages are then activated. It's simple in concept, and also the reason why we picked up the audio diary before the death warp earlier. In this exact use, the audio skip saves around 20 seconds and causes Peachy to spawn. Similar to the body coming through the wall on our first wall clip being an exception, this audio skip that we're going to do here is a bit of an outlier, with KPC actually getting some bad RNG in this run. In this run, Atlas began saying the line,
"If that's his price, you're gonna have to pay it."
which is actually totally luck-based with whether he says it or not. The issue is that this line playing delays the radio message tied to Peachy spawning from playing, but we technically have Peachy's first line in that dialogue string unlocked for playing.
I don't think it's purely random. I think it's either a timing-based thing or he messed up with the radio skip itself. I could be wrong, once again. I'm not entirely sure on it. I'd have to like watch the full run to see without... Let me see if I can pay attention here. Or for back
Being
to
an
the skill.
exception, this audio skip that we're going to do here is a bit of an outlier, with KPC actually getting some bad RNG in this run. In this run, Atlas began saying the line,
"If that's his price, you're gonna have to pay it,"
which is actually totally luck-based with whether he says it or not. The issue is that this line playing delays the radio message tied to Peachy spawning from playing, but we technically have...
Yeah, I don't know. I think because usually that's in reference to putting away your weapons. It might be a time-based thing between getting through the door and hitting a trigger there and actually putting away your weapons, like not doing that part fast enough. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm like 90% sure it's just a timing thing on some front.
Have Peachy's first line in that dialogue string unlocked for playing in our radio message log.
I know I keep pausing. Usually if you ever hear a runner say something is random, in that regard, and not like an item spawn or something, it's almost never actually random. It's usually either a timing thing, some hidden mechanic that no one understands, the frame rate dependent bullshit. It's almost never the case where it's actually a random occurrence.
What KPC does when he gets this bad luck Atlas line is he pulls up his radio message list and chooses to play Peachy's line, and then immediately plays a different radio message. This makes the game think that Peachy's line is ended, causing Peachy to spawn a few seconds after. Like I said though, this is a bit of an outlier with having to play the radio message that's supposed to be playing first, and for the most part, audio skips are just playing an audio diary. Before we unpause, something worth noting about this game is that when you pull up your map menu, the game has 4 menu tabs that you can click through to view, with them being the map, your goals, radio and diary messages, and help. The standard way of going about changing tabs is by clicking on the icons in the panel, but it's inefficient to move your mouse down to the bottom right corner of the screen just to move it to the top left to click on an audio message. It turns out though that if your keyboard has a previous song button that you would press when you're listening to like Spotify, then you can press that and the game switches to the next tab. So what KPC does is pull up the menu, hit that button twice, and then clicks on the messages he needs to play, saving on all that potential mouse movement.
A lot of runners, that is the thing, is previous media is the key. A lot of keyboards don't have that, but you can bind it to a different, like for instance, I have that bound to G. When I play BioShock specifically, I change my keyboard loadout so that G is acting as a previous media button, so I can spam it that way. I think auto hotkeys is allowed for that because otherwise it's pay to win, which is not something speedrunning communities tend to like. But yeah, it's that, but no one ever actually hits the previous media key. It's usually bound to something else or bound through auto hotkey.
You may be asking if allowing use of such a button is unfair to those without keyboards that have a previous song button. The answer to that is yes, if the BioShock community didn't already allow runners to use external software to bind buttons on their keyboard to the previous song input, just so everyone can be on a level playing field. So Peachy spawn.
It's like we're the same person explaining the same things. I'm just doing it first.
Based on where we're standing and looking, so KPC always stands and looks in the same exact place, so Peachy's spawn will always be consistent and quick. After killing...
Also, that's like frames of advantage. It's very easy to pull up the menu, and if you're just aware of where the button is, you can click it really fast. It's like, that small detail is... If you're going for a record, it might make a difference. Otherwise, it's like seconds of time. But like even less than seconds across the entire run.
Peachy, we have to wait for a gate to open before we head downstairs and grab our weapons back from the pneumo tube, which gives us back a shotgun and grenade launcher in addition to the weapons we deposited. This is because we're supposed to have those two weapons by now, so the game gives them back to us when we interact with the pneumo tube on the exit path. KPC then upgrades grenade damage at this weapon upgrade station for later in the run, and does animation skips by swapping to his weapons after each plasmid used to throw out 2 quick incinerates to melt some ice. This reveals a path that we go for a nice little jaunt down, leading to the next level, Smuggler's hideout. Skips by swapping, upgrades grenade damage at this weapon upgrade station for later in the run, and does animation skips by swapping to his weapons after each plasmid used to throw out 2 quick incinerates to melt some ice.
I was never aware, and maybe I've stupidly not been aware of it, that you could animation skip incinerate. I thought it had just a static time. So you can do animation skips with shooting guns, swapping away and then swapping back. So the shotgun, grenade launcher, crossbow. You can skip individual animations of reloading, not the full animation. So once you like empty the chamber, then you have to go through the whole thing. I wasn't aware, if it's true, that you could do that with plasmids. It works with plasmids too? Interesting. Wonder when that was found, because I had never heard that.
Nice. This reveals a path that we go for a nice little jaunt down, leading to the next level, Smuggler's hideout. Smuggler's hideout is mainly a story level and is a pretty quick one for the speedrun. There's a bit of water at the start of the level that we need to wade through, and when he does, KPC will jump constantly since it's faster to jump through the water than walk through it. To exit the water, he's going to walk up a small ramp with some metal sheeting on it that's supposed to serve as a visual walkway, but KPC will instead run alongside the edge of the ramp against the wall and use the lip of the metal sheeting as a tiny item boost here to save a fraction of a second. He'll then spelunk through some caves, expending some...
Before item boosting was found, because this run is done on... They haven't shown flings at all yet. Because flings are FPS dependent and you want a very high FPS for this trick, this ramp that he just boosted up, if you try to walk up this like last panel, becomes very, very difficult the higher your frame rate goes. So if you don't do an item boost, you have to like spam jump to climb up this. Otherwise you just get flung back constantly due to the FPS. It's really obnoxious for like no reason at all.
of a second. He'll then spelunk through some caves, expending some ammo from his Tommy gun along the way to give a hand a high five as he makes his way to a control panel where he'll perform Smuggler's skip. Normally when you use the control panel, big metal doors shut behind you, locking you into the observation room where the panel is. For Smuggler's skip, we stand in front of the control panel and do an input buffer where we quick save, press E to buffer interacting with the panel, and then hold backwards, letting us flip the switch and exit the room before the doors shut. This skips...
So that skip, you don't have to input buffer it, and you could say it's faster to just YOLO it. You're almost never going to see that happen because of the fact that load screens are just taken out of time, so it's literally free to make a save, and it makes it completely safe. It's like foolproof if you do it the save method. Otherwise, you're kind of risking through your entire run for a quarter of a second at most. But you don't necessarily need to do that save. In fact, we didn't used to do that with the save. Nowadays, it is very optimized because a lot of people have run it, and we have all these crazy FPS boost and tricks. This is also a segmented run of the game, so it's a little bit more optimized than your current single segment attempts.
Skips a cutscene where we watch Atlas try to get to his family who are in a bathysphere before he gets ambushed, and saves a minute and 15 seconds. Here KPC yeets a red barrel at the perfect time so that it collides when the cutscene of Andrew Ryan blowing up the bathysphere plays, making it canon that we actually kill Atlas's family. After saying hi to Atlas himself, we continue through the level, but before the game will let us exit the level, it has a string of radio messages it wants to get through, and you're not able to leave the level while any of the radio messages are playing. KPC performs an audio skip by playing an audio diary, making it so that the audio diary is playing, meaning that when we interact with the door to leave the level actually ends. This audio skip saves 20 seconds and leads us to Arcadia, where our new overall goal is to get revenge for Atlas and kill Andrew Ryan. At the start of this next level is a shut door that takes a bit to open, and the level also starts with a fade in from black. During the fade-in, KPC will walk forward to the closed door to start a radio message, then turn around and interact with the door to go back to the previous level. This won't work since we have a radio message playing, but interacting with the previous level door makes the door to the rest of the level open instantly, saving 3 seconds. So as you run—
Yeah, it's a trick that like no one ever cares about or talks about. And it's why the audio bugs out if you're in this level for too long, which I'm sure they might get into, but since it's a segmented run, you might not even see it. But like trying to go back to Smuggler's hideout opens that door instantly for whatever reason. So you like walk forward and turn around. It's a very weird trick that saves, I don't even know if it's 3 seconds. It might be less than 2. It's very, very minor.
Runs across this level, door to the rest of the level open instantly, saving 3 seconds. So as he runs across this level, KPC grabs a box, which is a mid-sized object, which is perfect for the glitch he's about to perform, called a fling. If you take an item, usually around this size, put it on the ground, stand on top of it, jump, and use telekinesis to bring the object to us, it slams into the bottom of our feet and the collision throws us super high. This is a fling. The only thing about doing this is when you hold an item with telekinesis, the item loses its hitbox temporarily. This means that when we put the item on the ground and stand on top of it, we have to wait for the item's hitbox to respawn, which we know has happened when we see ourselves lift slightly out of the object to be standing properly on top of it. This trick is actually frame rate dependent, with a higher frame rate giving you a faster and higher fling. Getting a high frame rate typically isn't an issue though, and I mean, it's a game from 2007, so getting it to run at the frame rate required for this trick really isn't too demanding. This first fling saves 10 seconds and is specifically called YOLO fling due to a story that I've included at the bottom of the description. After going through these doors, KPC grabs another box as he makes his way towards another fling location. So this level—
There's a lot of what you could consider YOLO flings. I mean, that is the YOLO fling. But there's tons, even up to this point. We'll read it in a second, but it has to do with like getting record. I'm pretty sure like KPC was behind and he did that fling, said YOLO, and then that was that. I'll read it in a second. But there's like so many different flings that you can do that once again no one does, because grab an item, bring it with you and set it up generally takes more time than it's gonna save, and even if it saves time, you're not always gonna get it, and then your run's just massively losing time for no reason. The same with item boost. There's a dozen item boosts that you never see or do because it's just like you'd have to actually be crazy. Let's see here. The first fling in the run, which saves 10 seconds. I'm not sure if it's 10 seconds. I'd have to, I don't know. I want to say it's less than that, but it might be. You kind of walk for a bit. It's specifically called YOLO fling since it is a known about fling, but it wasn't done in runs due to its difficulty. KPC was on a run that was pretty much dead and decided to say YOLO and try to fling since he knew about it, and ended up getting it first try. This led to him pulling the run back to a world record, making the fling just become part of the route. Gotta love glitches and moments like that in speedrunning, yeah. It's not that difficult. A lot of flings kind of weren't done for a long time just because the FPS. Higher FPS not only gives you a bigger boost, but it makes it more consistent to get a boost as well. And a lot of people, at least when I was really into the BioShock speedrunning scene, didn't have that high. Like 300 is kind of the aim for it, but if you have higher than that, it's going to be better. Sometimes it's a little too much. But with like a high FPS over 300, it's not that bad. Anytime I do a run, I go for that and get it, I don't know, first try, maybe third at worst. Nowadays, back then, it was kind of scarier. Also, for probably less than 10-second time save, you can lose a ton. So you mentioned this part about waiting for it to regain collision. That takes a while, especially if the box doesn't land this way. If it lands on its other sides, which happens a ton, then you have to reorientate it because you can't stand on those sides. It'll just like fling off from you. Get it, fling. So it's very easy to lose a ton of time just waiting for the box to have collision in the proper orientation.
Called YOLO fling due to a story that I've included at the bottom of the description.
Like just
specifically called YOLO.
So he puts it down at 26, 54, 53-ish.
fling due to a story that I've included at the bottom of the
And he like flings it like 56, 57-ish. So it's like 3 or 4 seconds to set up a fling. And if you don't make this, then you've wasted those 3 to 4 seconds, then a couple extra seconds for the fling attempt, and then you redo it. So on second try, you've already lost 10 seconds plus for a 10-second advantage. If you don't get it second try, then you're really just bleeding time.
The description. After going through these doors, KPC grabs another box as he makes his way towards another fling location. So this level's deal is that Andrew Ryan releases a poison in the air that will kill all the trees to destroy the city's oxygen supply, and him doing that traps us in an area-wide lockdown that takes forever to get out of. The trigger to activate the poison is a physical trigger and a look trigger, meaning it activates when we walk into it or when we look at it, but not from all directions. Like if we look at it from above, it won't activate. After going downstairs here, KPC will make sure to be looking down so he doesn't look at the trigger as he sets up and uses his companion cube to launch himself over the trigger to the exit, skipping activating the poison and getting put into lockdown. This saves 8 minutes over not performing the skip, 10 minutes over completing this level glitchless, and also skips needing to go to the farmer's market level, making it so that this speedrun is across 13 levels instead of 14.
Okay, so he did come around and say it's 13 levels. It's, once again, still technically 14 because of Crashlight being its own level. So you had the right amount, just finally taking out the farmer's market and adding in the Crashlight from the beginning, sort of thing.
The next level, Fort Frolic, will open with a fade-in from black with us walking down a straight hallway with the bathysphere to leave the level being at the end. Only issue is that when we get close to the bathysphere, it'll plunge underwater, and we typically have to go through the whole level then just to get close.
Also, one thing about this route, which I guess maybe they do it this way nowadays. I haven't watched the most recent record or routes. It used to be when you
all the trees to destroy the cities.
Got to this point, you have the second box after the first YOLO fling. You would go for the sports boost tonic by taking pictures of
the trigger to activate the poison.
This splicer, it's under my webcam. On the right, there's a splicer right here that you would kill and take a couple photos of and get sports boost 1, which gives you increased movement speed and increased wrench swing speed. I guess they just eventually, maybe they get it later on now, or they just decide it's not worth getting. No, and no one's ever like properly timed how much it saves across the run. It's going to be less nowadays because you do less walking as opposed to before. But interesting that he didn't grab that here.
Poison is a physical bit, but not here. KPC will make sure to be looking down so he doesn't look at the trigger as he sets up and uses his companion cube to launch himself over the trigger to the exit, skipping activating the poison and getting put into lockdown. So this saves 8
I'm gonna mute him for a second. You can see it right there, what I was talking about, of like these boxes not being your friends when you're trying to do flings. Like he goes to set it down and it just like, he accidentally kicks it and it goes flying and he has to reset it and it's like rotating. Like it's very easy for this box just to continually do that over and over again, and you just like lose tons of time because of physics. Unfortunately, there's no way to actually rotate it manually. It just rotates on its own, and it does what it wants. Which used to make the old Fort Frolic skip, which they're not going to get into, a really big pain in the ass because it involves stacking items on top of each other. And it was very easy for the top object to not line up properly and just fall off, and then it was annoying. Which they might get into on the last skip of the game, because it kind of comes back.
Activating the poison and getting put into lockdown. This saves 8 minutes over not performing the skip, 10 minutes over completing this level glitchless, and also skips needing to go to the farmer's market level, making it so that this speedrun is across 13 levels instead of 14. So the next level, Fort Frolic, will open with a fade-in from black with us walking down a straight hallway with the bathysphere to leave the level being at the end. Only issue is that when we get close to the bathysphere, it'll plunge underwater, and we typically have to go through the whole level then just to get it to come back up. The thing is though, despite the bathysphere going underwater, the interactability of the lever stays in place. This means that after throwing this briefcase out ahead to give the hitbox more time to spawn, KPC can perform a fling with the briefcase, letting him walk above the collision for the railing and all, and drop on top of the water where the bathysphere was, and look up to interact with the lever to bring himself to the next level. Now that you've seen it in a run, here's KPC's Fort Frolic individual level world record. It's just nasty if you ask me.
Maybe. Hey.
And that's 20 seconds of everyone's favorite level. You'll never see more than that.
To start the next level, Hephaestus, KPC performs a quick little item boost by shooting.
Hey, he pronounced Hephaestus correctly. Hephaestus is a level that, if you show that word to anyone, you're going to get different pronunciations of it. It took me a long time to figure it out, having to listen to many people. I think I learned how to say it properly from a dev. It's not Hephaestus, Hephaestus.
Shooting over a movie theater rope pole and hopping as he gets the boost. So this level is straightforward in the speedrun, with us just having to do a wall clip.
One trick that never got added, and once again, this is like, it may not even be faster, but it's a yellow fling that you could go for to save who knows how much time. Any of these T sections in the water, there's few of them throughout the game. The T sections do not have collision on the upper half, so once, like this beam here, anything above this has no collision in this little section. So you could grab, it's once again under my webcam, but there's explosive barrels here in this hallway. You could drag something from before. You could theoretically do a fling from this area out of this T section on top of these rocks, and then there's a T section on the other side of the rocks, which you're just going to walk around to. So instead of walking around for 5 seconds, you'd fling over this and drop into that one. Very minor. You're never going to see it. Hardly anyone even knows it exists. I don't even know if KPC knows it exists. It's something brought up in probably like 2013 in these SDA forums. Yeah, it's literally right here in this text. Do you know about the out of bounds route over the rocks at the beginning of Hephaestus Core in 2013? It's just, no one's ever done it in a run because you just won it.
Clip to finish the level. There aren't any splicers near the wall clip or setup spot though, so KPC has to lure one across the level, and here he kills the splicer on the right since the one on the left is a melee one and will chase us. While being chased, KPC constantly looks back at the splicer like he's playing a crash game. This is because wall clips are still relatively new and not a perfect science yet, and for some reason, if you're being chased by a splicer and look away from them, there's a chance they'll just lose interest and fuck off. So KPC looks back at the splicer the whole way to make sure they keep following. Additionally, KPC does a quick audio skip here to finish the Sander-Cohen line and get the other radio lines playing to avoid an annoying glitch that can happen in the next level. We've just arrived at the end area of this level, where KPC lures the splicer next to some stairs and a railing that are the perfect height so we can walk onto the splicer's head. He'll then kill the splicer and position himself on the body's edge before performing the wall clip and performing an audio skip to exit the level, saving around 3 minutes in total. This will bring us to the next level, Rapture Control Center, which is where Andrew Ryan's office is and where the story begins to round a corner towards the climax with a pretty long expository cutscene, but we're going to try to skip that. Right when he loads in...
Okay, before he gets into that, because that's another huge skip, that was a new setup for that skip I hadn't seen. It kind of makes sense to go on the right side instead of the left. Watching them is something I've not heard about. Once again, it may have been found out in the recent months. Because I haven't run this game in like 6 months. It's curious if that would actually cause him to not run away from you looking back, but very well could be.
KPC.
Like I said, it's also a new setup for the splicer. Because usually you want on the left side instead of the right, but I guess it doesn't matter which one. It's all the same. All right, let's hear the Rapture Central Control cutscene. Skip. This is always a fun one.
He is going to start playing a radio message and interact with the door to go to the previous level. Because radio messages are playing, the game doesn't load us into the previous level immediately, but it will warp us back to the previous level as soon as the radio messages stop playing. Next to the vending machine on the right here, he does a little bit of precise parkour to get over an invisible wall and start heading upstairs, where he'll then head through a vent to a small room with a door that he'll drop into. There he'll do an audio skip to force the door open, and he ensures a different radio message is still playing afterwards so that he doesn't get warped back to the previous level too soon. KPC is then going to play an audio diary right before initiating the big cutscene, timing it out so that the radio messages end and we get warped back to the previous level as soon as the cutscene starts. When we load back into Hephaestus, we'll have...
So as much as I understand this, having run the game, I feel like that would be a perfect explanation to have a diagram on screen with the radio message versus diary messages and how they go together. I feel like even understanding it, it's very easy to get lost track of radio message versus diary message when you're doing these skips. And I don't know how from a non-runner's perspective, how confusing that would be. And I know how much love Tomato has for his props and diagrams. I feel like that'd be a good one to have. Certainly completely lost there. Yeah, so there's two types of audio in the game. There's radio messages, which are NPC dialogue, mainly for story stuff. That's like people in the level, people that you're interacting with, Tenenbaum, Andrew Ryan, Fontaine, Atlas, like Steinman. Those are going to be your radio messages because they're playing over the area's radio. And then you have diary messages, which are the ones that you pick up, that are like the background lore that are optional. Radio messages keep the level loaded even when you're trying to leave. It'll just prevent it until they've gone through because it's like, this is important dialogue. You need to listen to it. The game doesn't care about diary messages at all, but only one can be playing at any time. So if there's a radio message preventing the level from leaving and loading into the next one or the previous one, you can skip all of those by just simply playing a diary message in its place. And the game's like, okay, there's a diary message playing. It's not important. We'll just move on, which is used more frequently in the run to just skip past stuff. In this level, it's the opposite. You want to keep the level loaded by having previous radio messages playing. But once you get to the door, it is locked until a certain radio message plays. So to skip past that radio message without leaving the level, you have to play previous messages. And the game's like, this one's already been read. And then you play one further ahead. So you're still playing the important radio messages is kind of out of order to skip them. And then once you get to the cutscene, then you activate a diary message so that you warp back out of it, essentially. I don't know if that was any clearer. Once again, I feel like that's the perfect time to have an on-screen representation of it. So if you want the level to be loaded, you play radio messages. If you want the level to be skipped, you play diary messages, right?
Tapped back to the previous level as soon as the cutscene starts. When we load back into Hephaestus, we'll have to wait a second before being able to go back through the door to Rapture Control Center, but when we do, then we'll be in Rapture Control Center with full control while the cutscene is playing out upstairs where we triggered it. With the cutscene initiated, the invisible wall we parkoured over earlier is now gone, so we can walk straight to the stairs we'll take up, grabbing a napalm on the way to perform a fling with. As we get closer to the cutscene area, we'll be able to hear it playing out in the distance, and when you initiate the cutscene normally, a gate closes behind you and you're trapped in the cutscene area. During the run, the gate still closes, so we're locked out now, so we'll be using the napalm to do a fling over the gate to enter the cutscene area. The cutscene also has two parts, the first being a monologue we listen to that we have control during, and the second part being a proper cutscene where we have no control. When we enter the cutscene area, the game will want to take away our control and put us into the second part, but by pulling up the menu, saving, and loading as soon as we enter the area, we maintain control just like how we did with Electro Bolt skip. We can then waltz into the next room while the cutscene plays out and interact with the objective without having to finish the cutscene or obtain the item at the end of the cutscene that we use to interact with the objective. Flashing lights warning, close your eyes if you need, I'll let you know when to open. After watching some images flash on screen from the other cutscene that's playing out, we perform an audio skip to get through the radio messages and open the gate that closes behind us in this room. All these strats that we just went over for this level save around 5 minutes when compared to this level in the glitchless run. Okay, flashing lights over. KPC then heads out towards the end of the level and makes a point of watching Ryan as the cutscene continues to play despite us accomplishing the task after it, just to show how his model moves during a part in the cutscene where we're supposed to be facing away. As KPC heads to the level exit, here's a run-on sentence summarizing the plot advancements that just happened, so mute the video until this image of Andrew Ryan goes away if you'd like to avoid spoilers for a game from 2007. So Andrew Ryan was about to self-destruct Rapture until we confronted him, learned where his illegitimate, genetically modified, rapidly aged, brainwashed child, learned Atlas has been
That is something I feel like a lot of people just completely forget about this game, is that Jack, the playable character, is like a 3-year-old super mutant baby, right? You're literally like a 3-year-old genetic offspring that's been like super aged up for this task. And everyone just kind of forgets the fact. It's really weird, but yeah, Jack, the playable character, is a giant super mutant baby.
trolling us by using the phrase "would you kindly," killed Andrew Ryan when he kindly asked us to, and switched control of Rapture over to Atlas, who is actually Frank Fontaine, Andrew Ryan's enemy from the past, and we're now off to kill Fontaine. Also, quick spoiler addendum, because we didn't kill him during the cutscene like we were supposed to, I guess that Andrew Ryan canonically lives in the speedrun? Actually, you know what, he's probably already dead in a ghost. That'd explain why he moved how he did when KPC was watching him. We're now...
If you actually... It's a funny joke, but if you do just let the cutscene play out and you don't leave the level immediately, he still dies. He still kills himself, and you can just sit there and watch it happen. He'll just like go through all the animations even though you're not in the right spot. So he still technically dies if you watch it, but you know, it's a speedrun, you're not going to watch it. You learned it in, I don't think you learned it in the cutscene. It's been forever since I watched it. I think there's like a diary in that area that you pick up that tells you about it, maybe? I don't know. I'm not a lore expert on the game, okay? I don't do 100% runs.
On the safe house of someone named Dr. Tenenbaum, the person who discovered Adam and the person considered to be the mother of the little sisters. She talks a lot to begin the level, so KPC performs 3 audio skips in a row to get through her dialogue. After this, KPC...
So, this was brought up a long time ago, at some point. The thing about, I think it was in Neptune's bounty, the thing about having a previous song, previous track, previous media button does not work for this part of the game. For whatever reason. It works everywhere else except for when you're in this because it's like a cutscene, I guess, because you don't have your weapons out. So when you see them skipping, really gotta go back.
3 audio skips in a row.
Maybe there might be a different key now. I'm kind of remembering it's different.
Discovered Adam and the person considered to be the mother of...
Yeah, it looks like he's doing it without touching it. So I think there is a different keybind, but I don't think previous media works there. I think you have to do something else to get that to work.
She talks a lot to begin the level, so KPC performs 3 audio skips in a row to get through her dialogue. After this, KPC decided that it's in his best interest to steal some candy from a little kid.
Fontaine has most of those, but not all. Suchan designed your mind, taught Fontaine to control you.
KPC then makes a break for it after a different little sister tells us to follow her, presumably because she was in on our little sting and wants to help us escape the wrath of her sister, which she goes above and beyond for by turning into our getaway vehicle. The rest of this level is actually super straightforward for the speedrun, with us just needing this little sister to unlock a door for us and then running through the rest of the level on our own. In a bit, KPC is going to grab a wheel and crank open a gate so he can climb under, and on the other side of the gate, he's going to make a save and load it. You can save and load to restart any radio messages that are playing, and KPC wants the specific radio message that's playing at that time to restart so that it's playing at the end of the level when he goes to perform an audio skip. This is because if you perform an audio skip during the radio message that plays after this one, you have to perform the audio skip twice for some reason, but if you do it during the message that KPC restarts, you only need to do it once. The reason this level is so straightforward for the run with us accomplishing really nothing is because this level and the next level we're going to are kinda paired levels where you're supposed to have access to both of them at once and hop back and forth to complete a story task. We can just go straight to the second area though and skip all the back and forth and the story task itself. While we head to the next area, which is called Apollo Square, I'd just like to take a moment and say I hope you're all doing well. If you aren't, then please, please, please remember that how you're feeling does not define you nor the rest of your life. I know that things can get absolutely overwhelming at times and it's all you can think about, but there is a tomorrow and you will be here for it. There's gonna come a day down the road where you reflect on where you were, and it'll be exactly that, a memory of where you were rather than who you were or are. Just please remember, no feeling is final, and it's okay to talk to others and seek help. Back to the run, KPC...
A nice wholesome message in the middle. I want to talk about this part though. Honestly, I thought when he said there's going to be a tomorrow, I thought he was going to say tomato. I thought he was going to do that, but wholesome.
During the message that KPC restart.
This is something this is another strat I haven't seen or heard about, the like saving and loading. I want to hear that explanation one time.
Playing, and KPC wants the specific radio message that's playing at that time to restart so that it's playing at the end of the level when he goes to perform an audio skip. This is because if you perform an audio skip during the radio message that plays after this one, you have to perform the audio skip twice for some reason, but if you do it during the...
Honestly, I'm not super used to the new route. I'm still used to the old route on this level. I don't remember it requiring 2 skips. I could be wrong on that. So this is a strat that I'm not super up to date and familiar with. I didn't think that was the case. The old level used to use the differences between audio or diary message and radio messages to keep the level loaded so you can go get the quest stuff for anyone that remembers older runs. Nowadays, because we can just clip through walls, it's not needed.
And the story task itself. Well, to the next area, which is called Apollo Square, I'd just like to take a moment and say I hope you're all doing well. If you aren't, then...
Yeah, I didn't think this took 2 diary skips previously. Maybe because he plays it first and then he clicks on the door instead of clicking on the door then playing it. That might make a difference. No, we'll listen to the message again. People need to hear it, you know? It's a good message.
Please, please remember that how you're feeling does not define you nor the rest of your life. I know that things can get absolutely overwhelming at times and it's all you can think about, but there is a tomorrow and you will be here for it. There's gonna come a day down the road where you reflect on where you were, and it'll be exactly that, a memory of where you were rather than who you were or are. Just please
okay. Super important message. This is what he just did there in the run. Was going for an item boost because this is always spawned in the same spot. It's less to set up and it's free to go for essentially. But you can see he doesn't get this. So it's why you don't see a ton of item boost in the route in the run, because even ones that are set up for you aren't always super consistent.
Just please
go back.
Exactly that. A memory of...
So there's a grenade right here, right up against this wall that he runs up to and tries to jump to get a boost off of. It's not a huge boost. It saves at most 2 seconds, probably more like a second. But you can see him jump into it and then not go anywhere.
Where you were rather than who you were or are. Just...
So normally it would boost you up like towards this thing. So even like super planned out item boost don't always work, which is why you don't get the ridiculous ones that save even less time than that by bringing an item with you. But they're in the game. You could go for them if you really wanted to.
Please remember, no feeling is final, and it's okay to talk to others and seek help. Back to the run, KPC will wait for a moment before this medical station on the right up here so that a splicer can walk slightly past us. This is so that when KPC then hops onto the medical station sign, the splicer will be positioned correctly so that he'll have a clear path to run straight at us, letting KPC then walk onto the splicer's head. After killing the splicer, KPC will position himself over the splicer's center and use it to fly up and into a corner of the ceiling in this room that doesn't have collision, meaning both we and the splicer's body go out of bounds and can fly around.
This is completely new for me. The old way is you would lead him all the way down to the exit, kill him there, and then clip through the invisible pushing force wall thing. It makes no sense lore-wise. It's just like... the game's telling you, oh, you don't have full control of your body because Fontaine's controlling you, so you have to get the thing removed before you can go down there. But it's not even a wall or a gate. It's just like literally wind pushing you back. This is a crazy setup, though.
himself over the splicer's center and use it to fly up and into a corner of the ceiling in this room that doesn't have collision, meaning both we and the splicer's body go out of bounds and can fly around. Out here, KPC will fly himself to the bathysphere at the end of the level, but getting there isn't as simple as just flying to the end. The area we go out of bounds is structured like this, with us
So, yeah, this is something that is never talked about for BioShock speedrunning because it's never mattered, because we never had ways out of bounds besides those T sections. But the game's put up in blocks. So it's like every corridor and in every main room is its own block that are just attached to each other. So even if you clipped out of the map, which I guess they're going to get into, and he's going to explain anyways, but I'll explain it first because I like to hear myself talk. If you clip out of an area and you get inside that bounding square cube, you would then have to clip through the boundary between cubes connecting. So even if you got out of bounds, you then have to clip through an invisible wall connecting different areas. So it was like never really looked into to get out of bounds in maps. Because even if you could, you know, then you have to have a way to clip through walls, which now we have by the same method. If you can clip through walls, and if you keep the body, you can clip through those outer bounds, right? So I'm sure that's exactly what this is referencing. This is going to be the start of the level. This is the room he was just in. This is the long hallway. Is what's going to be explained. This is crazy, though. I had not seen this, or no one mentioned this to me. I'm so sad.
As simple as just flying to the end. The area we go out of bounds is structured like this, with us starting here and needing to get here, and us being out of bounds above the level as well. Like, I don't want you to confuse our icon being shown as inbounds. Like, we're out of bounds just above the level. So the obvious way to get to the bathysphere would be to fly in a straight line there above most of the level. The only issue with this is that both of these walls are solid, and we can't bring the body through them with us, so we have to go around them if we're to make it to the end of the level while out of bounds. The only issue with this, though, is that this area of the map is marked as what KPC refers to as a no player zone. There isn't really an official name for this, it's just what KPC calls it. The no player zone is exactly what it sounds like, an area that the player cannot enter. Other things, including the splicer that we're riding, can though, and if we throw the splicer through the no player zone, then when it emerges on the other side of the zone, we'll immediately teleport to on top of the body.
So this is going to be exactly like what happens in BioShock 2 during the Fontaine Futuristics trick, and it is fucking wild. I don't know if he'll get around, him being Tomatoanus, if he'll do a BioShock 2 version of this, breaking it down, but they're as cool as the splicer clips are in this run, they are absurd in BioShock 2, especially the Fontaine Futuristics one, where you have to get on top of a splicer, kill the splicer, take him so much further into water, float him up out of bounds, go through like 2 no player zones. It's crazy stuff, but I'm assuming it's gonna be the same sort of thing. This is more me just talking to myself at this point than talking to you guys, because you're like, I don't know BioShock 2.
This is because while we're body surfing the splicer, our position is tied to being on top of it, even when the body's in a place that the game can't have us be. But as soon as the splicer's in a place where we can be, well, then we will be. So it seems like a simple solution. Fly past the solid wall, throw the splicer across the no player zone, teleport to the other side. Well, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. The no player zone is actually too wide for us to clear its distance with just one throw. Luckily, we can go around the solid wall to get the splicer to be above the middle section where the no player zone extends out from. We're going to go across the no player zone again to get around the other solid wall, and from there, he'll throw the body one more time across a different no player zone that's above the final room. Once he's through that final no player zone, he'll drop back in bounds in a specific spot. Something worth noting though is that this trick isn't as straightforward and easy as it may look, with it just being a few yeets. The throw from the first position out of bounds to the midsection is actually super difficult, as the no player zone also extends above the midsection. This here is an image of the midsection, and the red lines indicate the border of the no player zone. With the throw, KPC has to blindly get the splicer to land in this area between the building and the red lines, with it being a pretty small and difficult window to hit. Additionally, the second no player zone and final room have a similar small window we have to land in. Alright, now that we have all that context, let's see KPC pull this all off first try.
So before you even see the trick, even just this setup would be fantastic compared to like how I do this level with the splicer, which I thought when I first saw this up is what he was going to do is just taking this body from this point and flying to the end instead of bringing the splicer all the way with you. But the fact that there's an out of bounds is crazy. I'm excited to see this. That's another thing. I'm sorry to interrupt it again. Take a shot of water. Is you can crouch and stand on the body when you're flying to control like vertical height and stuff. You can also just not use telekinesis and let it kind of drop and then re-grab it, which is another small little thing that you can do. So there he's just lining it up so he's further out. I'm kind of covering up this thing, so I'm talking about it. But he brings it out so you can get the line up, and then to switch momentum and go the other way, he lets go of telekinesis without throwing it, just drops it, which is usually done by switching to a gun and back, or to a different plasmid and back. You won't actually use the throw. Otherwise, the body would go flying away from you, and then re-grab it. Yeah, that's fancy.
KPC gets back in bounds. Finishing up this level is as simple as...
Okay, I wasn't like super excited to de-rust BioShock. I was kind of excited to get a better time. Now I'm excited. I get to do this. I get to learn how to do this tonight. Oh man, I'm stoked.
Interacting with the bathysphere that leads...
Why did no one tell me this? No one came and said, hey, there's a proper out of bounds now. No one. I'm so sad. No one said this. I'm gonna ban everyone from my chat.
To the next level, Point Prometheus. I just hope Bob is...
I'm watching it again.
When KPC gets back in bounds, finishing up this level is as simple as interacting with the bathysphere that leads to the next level, Point Prometheus. I just hope Bob is there. So right at the start of Point Prometheus, you have to sit in the bathysphere for a bit and watch some action going on outside of it, similar to the start of the game. You're not supposed to be able to die while you're in the bathysphere during this part, so the game doesn't know what to do if you die. So by killing ourselves by shooting and telekinesising some grenades, then we die and respawn outside of the bathysphere, letting us say hi to Atlas, also known as Fontaine, also known as Simpus Supreme, in person again. We can't just go running through the level though, because the game will soft lock if we do that too soon, so KPC positions himself as close as he can get to the soft lock point while waiting, and sets off as soon as he's in the clear. So
yeah, this is another trick that almost no one does unless you're going for a really good time, because it is incredibly easy to soft lock this point. Also, previously you needed enough grenades to kill yourself there, and you can also get iframes and all that, and so if you don't have enough grenades, which you used to use quite a few throughout the run, so it was kind of a sketchy thing to go for, but now with the route how it is, you don't kill tons of big daddies in Hephaestus anymore. You're not doing crazy death warps all over the place. You have plenty of grenades to do that. And if you know where to stand, obviously you can save time. But even this is a very small time save. It's like the distance between when the bathysphere opens to walking up here. So it's like 5 seconds, maybe upwards of 10 at most, at the risk of throwing away your entire run.
There are 2 security bots on the other side of this little walkway stretch that's divided by doors that we have to wait for to open, and as soon as they do, we'll blast at the security bots with our grenade launcher to make sure they don't block us during a trick we're about to do. KPC then stands and lines up his reticle in specific spots for a skip called Last Chance Kid, where he walks forward and jumps at a specific time, causing him to hit 2 triggers in reverse order, making it so we maintain control when we shouldn't, and we can run to the end of the level while the door to it is still open before it closes as part of the cutscene. This lets us see what Simpus Supreme likes to do behind closed doors. Last Chance Kid saves around 80 seconds and got its name from the line that is yelled at you over and over should you fail the skip and have to load the safety save to try again. This brings...
I don't know where the 80 seconds comes from. It's the only other way I know of doing that level is to actually go and grab the gear and stuff, and maybe that's 80 seconds. I've never timed it, but I thought it was more than that. To continue on, maybe that's all it takes. If so, cool. I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a diagram for this one, because it's another one that gets asked about a lot in terms of what happens. 'Cause it's a really weird skip. There's obviously two different triggers that you have to hit. There's a look-based one that's like towards Atlas himself, and then there's one as you go through like this plane. But if you just activate the look-based one, you get dragged into this cutscene through this doorway, and you get stuck in place watching him. And if you walk through it, then it sticks you in place and makes you look at him anyways. That's why you have to do this weird jump from far away. So you're off the floor when you hit this cutscene, but you're also activating this one first so that you're not getting stuck in the ground. You're basically invalidating the trigger that's in this doorway, right? Because this is the one that sticks you in the ground and makes you look at Fontaine over here, or Atlas, whatever you want to call him.
When we should.
And with Electro Bolt and one of the other skips previously, we've pointed out, or he's pointed out, and I've kind of talked about it, that if you're in the air, the game doesn't quite have the control over you that it wants to have. That's why in Electro Bolt cutscene, it wants you to be on the floor to drag you back, but you can jump away from it. So you're in the air, it doesn't have that proper control. That's why you can get away from it. There's some other cutscene that happens, but basically being in the air, the game can't control you, which is why it works to skip this. And Thor's here now.
And we can run to the end of the level while the door to it is still open before it closes as part of the cutscene.
You can clip through yeah, I guess body clipping through the door would work as well. And ever considered that? Because it's just not needed.
This lets us see what Simpus Supreme likes to do behind closed doors. Last Chance Kid saves around 80 seconds and got its name from the line that is yelled at you over and over should you fail the skip and have to load the safety save to try again. This brings us to the next mission, Proving Grounds, which is the last real level before the final boss and is also an escort mission where you're supposed to lead a little sister throughout the whole level, guarding her the entire time as we practice for this game's sequels while we wear a Big Daddy suit we were supposed to put on in the previous level. I think it's worth going over how this level works real quick before watching KPC go through it. So like I said, it's an escort mission where we're meant to take a little sister from the start of the level to the end, harvesting 3 bodies along the way for their Atom. We're not able to just clip into the exit of the level in the speedrun like we have with previous levels, since there's a trigger at the end that doesn't spawn unless you finish the escort mission, so there's no...
Yeah, so this is also one of those things that long ago, before we just had body clips, I know I went through and tested this. I'm sure other people went through and tested it to see if, even if we could find a way to skip past stuff, would it work, right? Is it worth trying to find stuff to get us past this part in the game, even if we could? So this button is what you have to interact with to leave the level. It's the only way for the level to end. And you can't activate this button until you pick up the Atom Needle from the little sister. And the only way to get that is for the little sister to go into the vent. So at some point in time, you have to get a little sister to that part in the game. Even if you can clip through walls, do whatever, the only way to end the level physically is to get the little sister to the vent in some way. So if you could speed up that, then you could speed up the level. Which, until recently, and for some reason this works in this level, you can grab a little sister from halfway into the level. Unfortunately, no other air vent works because you could grab one closer, possibly even grab one from the air vent you put her into. For some reason, the one works, which I don't think anyone had tested before. So we just thought, even if you could skip past anything, it's not worth it because nothing spawns. Luckily, that's not quite the case.
No way to leave the level without bringing a little sister to the end. If at any point your little sister dies, then you can get a new one by hitting one of several vents around the level with your wrench. Normally, you're only able to get a new sister from a vent if you already progressed that far into the level with your little sister, but there's a vent halfway through the level that we can hit with our wrench to get a free little sister without having had a previous one, and this vent is located past 2 of the 3 bodies we need to harvest. This vent only gives you a little sister if no other sisters have been spawned, so there's normally no way to get this free sister since you typically would have to spawn a sister to get to it. KPC believes that this vent is
Yeah, exactly. It's like for some reason that one specific vent will let you get a little sister. There's even one like on the opposite side of the door. So you clip through a door to get to the vent. On the side that you've clipped from, there's another vent. Like literally a foot apart, just a wall apart. That doesn't work.
a left-in dev tool where the devs would use the vent so they didn't have to play through the first half of the level with a little sister to test the second half of the level. The thing that's super nice about this vent is that because it's past 2 of the bodies we're supposed to harvest, we can just wall clip to get to that vent and pick up the level from there, skipping half the level in the first 2 bodies we're supposed to harvest, leaving just 1. Once we get to the vent and get our little sister, we have to escort her, and the way little sisters work is they run through the level, hitting spaced out checkpoints to guide them. If we enter combat or take damage or anything along those lines, then the little sister enters panic mode where she runs to you for protection. You'd think that this could be used to our advantage since we could just make her panic, then run to the body she needs to harvest, followed by the end of the level, but little sisters don't hit checkpoints while they're in panic mode. This means that if she panics and goes off her path, then once she pops a Zanny and calms down, rather than continue from where she's standing towards the next objective, be it the body or the end of the level, she'll instead head back towards and hit the checkpoint she was headed to when panic struck. Additionally, you can't run too far from the little sister or they'll get scared and stop moving, so you have to stay with and protect them. So here—
Yes, I'm glad he put a diagram for this part, because it is something I always try to bring up whenever I have to like explain the route, explain the run. Is exactly that. Like, you could run her to the very end of the level, to that vent at the far end, but if you skipped a dozen checkpoints along the way, she will run all the way back to that first one that she missed and then continue from there. Also, once she started running, she can either run or walk. Typically, she'll always run until something happens. If you've like skipped a checkpoint, when she runs back, from that point onward, she'll walk pretty much every time. So not only do you have to wait for her to run back, but then she's going to be even slower because she's going to be walking from that point onwards, which is just, it bleeds time. It is so awful if you ever see her walk at all. It's just, it's miserable.
Sister, or they'll get scared and stop moving, so you have to stay with and protect them. So here KPC walks into a room to hit a trigger that spawns a splicer and kills a security bot that's flying around so it doesn't get in the way. After shooting at the splicer that spawned to lure him over to a staircase, KPC mounts a nearby ledge so that he can walk onto the splicer's head. After setting up the body surf, he then rides the body up some stairs where he performs the first wall clip of the level. On the other side of the door, KPC will make a save since he's about to move a freestanding ashtray across the level, and he needs to make sure that it stays standing as he moves it. This is because we need to perform another wall clip, and while there aren't any splicer head level spots nearby for walking on top of one, the ashtray on top of a couch is the perfect height for a splicer's head. The splicer that he sets the glitch up with has unique lines that no other splicer has and just paces this hallway without doing anything. The most unique thing about this splicer though is that it'll never spawn wearing a hat, hence how they got their name from the speedrunning community, Hatless. After telekinesising Hatless's mask off so we don't collide with it on the way down, we set up the body surf, open the automatic door to the big area, smoothly navigate to the door we need to clip through, and KPC moves to the edge of Hatless as he falls so he can perform the wall clip before the body even hits the ground. After hitting the vent to summon our free sister, KPC took out a turret with 1 shotgun blast and grabbed 6 proximity mines here off a dead body before returning to follow the sister.
So just completely backtracking here. The reason this splicer is different and won't attack you, it may be for a very obvious reason that you just don't think about because you're watching a speedrun. It's because of the fact that we're supposed to be a Big Daddy instead of just Jack. Because the splicer sees us in the Big Daddy suit, which we're supposed to get in Point Prometheus. He's not going to just attack a Big Daddy because he would get completely fucked up. He would get fucked up anyways. But in his mind, it's like, it's a Big Daddy. I'm not going to mess with that. Which is why he's not aggressive and you can do the skip. I mean, you could do it even if he was aggressive, but because he's a leadhead splicer instead of a thuggish splicer, which is a melee one, he's going to shoot you from range and he won't get close enough to the spot. This is also Very reminiscent of the Fort Frolic skip I talked about before of stacking items. Unfortunately, this is the best item to stack here, but if this falls over or it rotates when you're picking it up, which happens more often than not, it is a nightmare to get it standing back in this position. Even flipped 180 so that this bottom part is on top can make this very unstable. And when you stand on it, it will get flung away because of high FPS. And this is kind of the same thing we used to do in Fort Frolic. We used the suitcase and then a bigger trash can than this on top of that. And it was not fun. Flings are so much better.
Splicer's head. The splicer that he sets the glitch up with has unique lines that no other splicer has and just paces this hall.
So with safety saving, I'm glad you brought that up. It's something I don't think he talked about at all. I don't remember him saying it. With objects in this game, and telekinesis in particular, if an item is moving, or if you have it in your hands with telekinesis when you quick save, and this goes for BioShock 2 as well, it completely loses all collision forever. So like how this is right now, if he quick saved and loaded it in, he could never stand on this prop. So you can save as long as the item is completely still. And I mean completely. If it's like even microscopically twitching around and you can't even notice it because it's so small, it'll just lose collision. So sometimes you'll see, I've done it plenty of times, you get it set up.
The splicer that he sets the glitch up with has unique lines that no other splicer has and just paces this hallway without doing
like this, where it looks like it's completely still. And you quick save, like, all right, I'm going to save now because it's in a good spot. It's not going to fall over. Even if it does, I can reload. If this is moving ever so slightly and you quick save, quick load, you can never stand on this ever again, which makes it a really big pain in the ass. It's also nowadays why you don't save when you're standing on a prop. Usually you can get away with it in Arcadia because the box is so big, but if you stand on this ashtray and save and load, more than likely it'll either lose collision or it will freak out when you reload in because it's just trying to process the physics, and at a high frame rate it'll just like shoot out from underneath you, and obviously you have no time to fix it. So it's just like a really bad idea. I'll usually save, I'll quick save after the first door.
On the other side of the door, KPC will make a save since he's about to move a freestanding ashtray across.
Yeah, so usually you save here before you've picked it up because it's completely still. It's not going to fall over. It's not going to lose collision. But from this point till the skip, you just like never want to save. You can risk it. But at this point, you're 30 plus minutes into the run. And it's like, this is the last thing you really have to do. Once you get past this, it's just making sure the little sister runs the entire time and then killing the boss, which is pretty free if you've gotten this far. So losing a run to this moving or losing collision is not fun.
And he needs to make sure that it stays standing as he moves it. This is because we need to perform another wall clip, and while there aren't any splicer head level spots nearby for walking on top of one, the ashtray on top of a couch is the perfect height for a splicer's head. The splicer that he sets the glitch up with has unique lines that no other splicer has and just paces this hallway without doing anything. The most unique thing about this splicer though is that it'll never spawn wearing a hat, hence how they got their name from the speedrunning community, Hatless. After telekinesising Hatless's mask off so we don't collide with it on the way down, we set up the body surf, open the automatic door to the big area, smoothly navigate to the door we need to clip through, and KPC moves to the edge of Hatless as he falls so he can perform the wall clip before the body even hits the ground. After
with what I was talking about with items losing their collision, for whatever reason, splicers in doing this trick do not lose their collision. I'm not sure why it's different with the splicer's dead body versus an item, but if you save on top of a splicer's body, even if it's like moving, it doesn't lose it to collision. You could still use it to do these flings or whatever we're calling them, which is kind of strange, but it's really nice because if those lost collision, you'd have to do all those flings in like one go, and some of those are not easy.
For hitting the vent to summon our free sister, KPC took out a turret with 1 shotgun blast and grabbed 6 proximity mines here off a dead body before returning to follow the sister. One-shotting things doesn't count as fighting, so it doesn't scare the little sister, so we're going to try to one-shot every enemy we come across in this level. KPC will take a right immediately after the door opens to take out a turret with 1 shot and looks back to check on the little sister as she runs through the carnage like it's 1917. He then says no you to a turret by grabbing a rocket out of mid-fucking air and tossing it back. In the next room, KPC is going to pick up a suitcase that he'll immediately use offensively with animation skipping to get a triple kill that would surely have given Don and Peggy the inspiration they needed for their Samsonite campaign. When he rounds the corner at the end of the hall, he's then going to throw a Hail Mary with the suitcase to kill a splicer, and when he continues down...
I don't think there's any animation canceling there at all. It's just using telekinesis 3 times to kill him. It used to be you just shot a grenade or a proxy grenade at these splicers and blew them up and hoped the little sister didn't go into panic mode or whatever you called it. I don't think there's animation canceling here, though.
Corner at the end of the hall, he's then going to throw a Hail Mary.
It might be that KPC told him that there's animation canceling that like you could do optimally to get it a little faster, but in this clip, at least, there's none.
With the suitcase to kill.
Maybe he is.
Campaign.
Wait, maybe I'm wrong.
The corner at the end of the hall, he's then going to.
I don't think the animation cancel makes this any faster.
Throw a Hail Mary with the suitcase to kill a splicer, and
you know what? I might be talking about my ass. That might be a little faster. I take it all back. I'm wrong.
When he continues down the hallway, he'll do something called a little sister warp. I know I just went over the whole checkpoint system and said that we can't make the little sister panic run through the level faster, but this
it was so fast, right? KPC was just so smooth. I didn't notice the swapping. That's how fast the runs are, okay? Don't blame me, blame my bad eyes. I wear contacts, okay?
System is super checkpoint system and said that we can't make the little sister panic run through the level faster, but the system is super complicated and there's some exceptions. This is one of them, where by exploding a proximity mine on himself to panic the sister while she's more than halfway to the next checkpoint, then turning around in a certain spot, the little sister warps forward to the next checkpoint faster. These are pretty exact in terms of where they work, so we can't just do them everywhere with every checkpoint. So KPC does an audio skip here to begin the harvesting of the 3rd body in the level while he's perched on a sign for vantage. 6 splicers spawn during the harvest, and the harvest ends when we kill them all, so to take them out quickly, we lay down the proximity mines we grabbed into 2 of the splicer spawn areas so they get taken out before they can breathe.
So the one thing about this strat is you have to be very careful about where you place these mines. There's a spawn on the left and a spawn on the right. If you place these too close to their spawns, it's either that they die too quickly and they don't register as deaths, so it never proceeds and you soft lock, or it's the fact that the splicers see that in their spawning area and won't spawn on it. I think that's more of what happens. And it'll just never end because you haven't killed those splicers. That's why he's not putting them further. Yeah, this one's heading up by my webcam once again. Further down the hallways, closer to where they spawn. Because if you did that, you're more than likely going to soft lock. And you usually just end up using telekinesis for this stuff anyways.
This perch is super nice since he can angle his camera to view the 2 spawn locations at once, so whenever a mine is blown up, he sees it happen and can quickly lay down a new one in the same spot. Once he runs out of proximity mines, KPC picks up a nearby body and uses it as a weapon to clean out any remaining splicers, including one that pretends to be dead on the ground but was woken up by an explosion we caused when killing another splicer.
Yeah, so this is more traditionally what you see as picking up a splicer and like checking the different spawn points. The splicers have a tendency to spawn at the spawn point that you're not really looking at, right? So if you're looking down this hallway at this spawn point on the left, you're going to have a splicer spawn on the right. If you're looking more towards the right, then you're going to have one on the left, so that they're like sneaking up on you and you're not seeing them spawn. You're more immersed because you're not seeing behind the scenes, right? That's why in BioShock 2, you can literally stare at their spawn point in like the last stage and they'll just never spawn. And then the fight there gets skipped, it doesn't soft lock. But because you're literally staring at where they should pop into the map, the game's like, all right, we can't spawn these enemies because you know, it would be immersion breaking. I'm breaking my own immersion here. And it continues on. So like if you just stare down this hallway the entire time, every splicer in this fight's going to come from the right, which is why you put grenades on both, and he kind of stares at not either side. Right? He places a grenade when he needs to, otherwise he's looking here, not really at either spawn points.
Nice, since he can angle his camera to view the two spawn locations at once, so whenever a mine is blown up, he sees it happen and can quickly lay down a new one in the same spot. Once he runs out of proximity mines, KPC picks up a nearby body and uses it as a weapon to clean out any remaining splicers, including one that pretends to be dead on the ground but was woken up by an explosion we caused when killing another splicer. So much for the plan I drafted up as a kid that playing dead is the smartest thing to do if I were in a horror movie. KPC just replenished his proximity mines from the body that was harvested and will run down the hall with the sister now, but will stop before the flowing water. Just past the pillar that we stopped next to is the trigger that spawns the Kool-Aid Man to burst through the wall on our way to the exit. We want to wait to move until after the little sister has passed the burst-in point so that she isn't body blocked at all by the Kool-Aid Man. Once the coast is clear, KPC gets moving and actually fights Mr. Man, wanting to kill him so that he doesn't follow us into the next room. This is a moment where the power of animation skipping is on full display with how we can...
Okay, before we get into the fight, it used to be that you would just use, is it decoy in BioShock 1? It's the same plasmid is different between BioShock 1 and 2 in name. I think it's decoy in this and target dummy in 2. You used to buy target dummy to make the setups to getting on top of the splicers significantly easier, but now in this new route, you never buy it, which is crazy. You never buy that or ice. It's kind of wild. Winter Blast. No, is that the one in 3? I don't remember, but you don't use those plasmids anymore is what I'm getting at. So I guess now you have to actually kill him, and you never get the crossbow because we don't go through Hephaestus, and there's not really other spawn point to getting the crossbow. There's a couple other hard spawn points for it. 2 are in Hephaestus. I think there's one in Olympus. Maybe it's in Apollo. But regardless, you never pick it up in that. So we're going to have grenades, which he uses all the proxy mines. And you want to have proxy mines for fighting Fontaine. So you want machine gun rounds, shotguns, that kind of stuff for this. And telekinesis using bodies does not one-shot a Big Daddy, unfortunately. And it doesn't do a ton of damage to him either. It's not like it's a 2, 3, 4 shot for whatever reason. So I want to see the strats.
Into the next room. This is a moment where the power of animation skipping is on full display with how we can get 3 shots off here in the time it would take to pump the shotgun once. With the Kool-Aid Man canonically dead, we're in the clear for the level with us just having to wait for the sister to climb through one more doggy door to open up the final room, which is a restock room for the final boss of the game. Here we're going to grab a bunch of ammo to prep for the fight before moving to a specific position where we'll stand and watch a child struggle with their underdeveloped upper body strength. It still ends up being better than most people watching this video can do though, I guess. We position ourselves here as it's the furthest we can be from the vent where we can still interact with the item the sister holds out for us that we grab before it even appears on screen, which is the atom harvesting tool. This item is the trigger item that's required to finish the level, and the only way to get it, as I said earlier, is by bringing a little sister to the end of the level. We then hop in.
Yeah, so that's the thing I was talking about at the start. Obviously, he just went over it. But yeah, if you don't bring the little sister, you can never grab the atom harvesting tool, the needle, to then spawn in the button for this to work.
The elevator, get it, as I said earlier, is by bringing a little sister to the end of the level. We then hop in the elevator and ride it up to the final level, our face-off against Fontaine. For this fight, Fontaine will begin in restraints, and the fight begins by walking up to him, sticking him with the harvesting tool, getting
what was that diss? Hold on.
I guess. Body strength. Moving to a specific position where we'll stand and watch a child struggle with their underdeveloped upper body strength. It still ends up being better than most people watching this video can do though, I guess. We position...
Alright. Give me a second. Let's prove a point real quick. I need to move my webcam for this. All right, you've been challenged, Mr. Tomato. Let's see you do it. 2, count 'em, 2 pull-ups.
Position ourselves here as it's the furthest we can be from the vent where we can still interact with the item the sister holds
I'll fix the webcam after.
out for us that we grab before it even appears on screen, which is the atom harvesting tool. This item is the trigger item that's required to finish the level, and the only way to get it, as I said earlier, is by bringing a little sister to the end of the level. We then hop in the elevator and ride it up to the final level, our face-off against Fontaine. For this fight, Fontaine will begin in restraints, and the fight begins by walking up to him, sticking him with a
1 second. Did he change this?
finish the level, and the only way to get it, as I said earlier, is by bringing a little sister to the end of the level. We then hop in the elevator and ride it up to the final level, our face-off against Fontaine.
Ah, keeping the spoilers away, huh? I like it. I was going to point this out earlier, but I wasn't sure if he was going for spoilers or not. You know, hats off, a little small detail right there. He kept the final level spoiler-free in a 15-year-old game. You know, hats off, a little detail.
For this fight, Fontaine will begin in restraints, and the fight begins by walking up to him, sticking him with the harvesting tool, getting slapped back by him, and him hopping down into the arena. He always jumps down to the same spot, so KPC will preemptively load that spot up with 3 proximity mines, which will instantly take out his health when he jumps down, causing him to go back up into the restraints for us to poke again. Also, if you remember 23 minutes and 45 seconds ago, we grabbed a grenade damage upgrade, which is what makes it so that we can defeat each phase in just 3 proximity grenades instead of 4. The cycle of damaging him and pricking him needs to be done 2 more times after the first phase, but we...
So I want to see if he points this out, but I want to say it first, because that's the kind of guy I am. 2 things about this fight. Well, my webcam is distracting me now. I'll fix it later. You can use 3. You can use 3 grenades or 2. It kind of depends on how you want to do this fight. Because you have 6 grenades in total, right? Let's do some math. Either you use 2 grenades 3 times, or you use 3 grenades twice. Right? So KPC, I guess, prefers the 3 grenade method. I prefer the 2, because it makes things a little bit less panicky if you mess up. So the 3 grenade method, you put 3 grenades down, then he'll insta-die. You put 3 more grenades down, he'll insta-die in phase 2. Then phase 3, it used to be you would use the crossbow and some sort of bolt for it, either the regular bolt or the incendiary ones or whatever, trap bolts would work. Actually, you wouldn't want to use trap bolts. You would use one of those to finish off phase 3. Which is why I don't prefer that method. It might, I mean, time-wise, it would be pretty minimal. Yeah, I'm curious to see what he does for the 3rd phase now, because you don't have crossbow. The 2 grenade method, you put down 2 grenades, he comes out, and he goes down to 1 health, and then you use something like the shotgun or machine gun to finish off that, like, 1 health on each phase. So it's 2 grenades, shotgun, 2 grenades, shotgun, 2 grenades, shotgun. The only thing that can go wrong on phase 3 with that method is when you put down 2 grenades. On phase 3, he has security bots come in, and there is a chance they blow those up before he hits the ground. So there's kind of a risk either way. It's just kind of which risk do you want to take. I prefer the 2 grenade method, but that's me. Also, the other thing to point out, when you stab him in the chest, it's supposed to, like, move around with him moving. Most of the time, he's not gonna move. So you're just sticking the needle in and then wiggling it around all over his chest, just making a mess. And it looks so odd and so horrible every time I see it.
Of 4.
Right.
The cycle of damaging him and pricking him needs to be done 2 more times after the first phase.
Just completely dragging a needle all through his chest.
But we only have 3 more proximity mines, which are used in the 2nd phase of the fight to damage him like in the 1st phase. That's okay though, because after laying down the 2nd batch of proximity mines, KPC swaps the ammo.
So like that, he's supposed to be moving with it. So it looks like it's just in a static spot. But most of the time he's not gonna move, and it looks so weird.
To normal frag grenades. The reload animation for this will complete just before we walk up and jab him the penultimate time, which is perfect because after getting knocked back, we can then just blast him 3 times in a row with frag grenades, swapping to plasmids between shots to animation skip, of course. Once he gets back into the restraints, the final...
Okay, so he just uses regular frag grenades for phase 3. Yeah, that works. Makes sense. One annoyance with phase 3 is if you happen to miss whatever weapon you're using, grenade, bolts, shotguns, whatever it may be, which is why I like using the 2 grenade strats, because when that goes right, you don't really have to worry about it, because all you have to do is hit 1 shot, and with the shotgun, it's free, because it has a big spread, it's going to hit him, it's going to kill him. With this method, if he misses one of these grenades, more than likely, Fontaine is going to charge at him, making it harder to hit him and losing more time, and then you have to like circle around him, turn 180, shoot him again. Kind of becomes a mess. But KPC's an expert. He's not gonna miss.
Final time, we give him his final booster, and the run officially ends when we stab him and lose control. Something worth noting is that this game has a good and bad ending based on whether or not you saved or killed the little sisters throughout the game. The way
it has a good ending, a neutral good ending, a neutral bad ending, and a bad ending. The neutrals really don't matter. They're not any different. They're just like different dialogue over the same cutscenes. And it depends on how many little sisters you interact with. In the run, once again, I'm sure he's going to get into it, but I'm talking about it first. If you don't interact with any little sisters, you get the good ending by default. The only way to get the neutral ending is to, I think, okay, I have to think back to the old route. Whether you get the neutral bad or the bad. I think you get the bad ending if you harvest 2 little sisters or more. Once you've interacted with like 2, it becomes different for like casual playthroughs and stuff. If you save 1, harvest 1, then you get the neutral ending. Yeah, and then 2's the bad ending, where they talk about like the nuclear weapons and stuff.
The way the game calculates which ending to give you is incredibly complicated, with you getting the bad ending if you killed at least 2 sisters throughout the run. Huh, I guess that wasn't that complicated. Because we didn't interact with any little sisters throughout the run other than stealing some candy from one, we get the good ending. So if you've made it to the end of the run, thank you so much on behalf of both myself and KPC for watching. And also,
me.
Thank you so much to KPC for helping make this video. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, this run had a route change mid-production that required script changes and for a new run to be recorded, but KPC absolutely knocked it out of the park by recording a new run so quickly and also helping me understand the run as a whole. If you want to check out more BioShock runs or even BioShock 2 runs, then check out KPC's channel, link is in the description. And if you want to learn more about runs of this game, other categories, or check out other runners as well, then head on over to speedrun.com and use that search bar. I'd also like to take a moment and say thank you to everyone who supports the channel on Patreon. This run was actually chosen by my patrons to be covered on the channel as a celebration for hitting the 275 patron milestone. We're only a few away from hitting 300, and for crossing that milestone, patrons are going to be able to suggest runs that are included in a poll for them to all vote on and decide on a run that'll be covered in a future video. We've already done this twice in the past, with the winners being the Silent Assassin suit-only speedrun of Hitman 2016 and the recent Subnautica Any% video. If that sounds like something you'd like to participate in, then you can by contributing as little as $1 a month. Doing that not only lets you participate in polls, but you also get access to videos early, versions without the ad reads, updates on videos as they're being made, and more. It's entirely unnecessary, yet so many of you choose to do it anyways, so again, thank you to all of you who support. Speaking of support, if you'd like to join a chill and supportive Discord server, then join the Tomatoanus server. The people there are an incredibly welcoming bunch who are always down to chat with new faces and just shoot the shit about whatever. Plus, we have the best channel in Discord history, dogs wearing clothes. That's all for this video though. This was an...
It's not cats wearing clothes though, so I mean, how great can it really be? Also, that is really red. You know, I'm gonna knock this video one more time. One more nitpick. His name is Tomatoanus, right? This is not the anus of the tomato. I click on this video to see the bottom side. I feel like this is almost false advertisement. This is tomato stem, tomato top. I feel cheated and lied to.
Any percent speedrun of BioShock. I've been Tomatoanus, and I hope you have an above average day.
Nice. No. Pretty good all in all. I learned some things as a veteran speedrunner. Said if we go back to this SDA forum, which is now completely cropped to hell, started running this game in early 2013, 9 years ago. I was a wee lad posting on these now forsaken forums about doing the first ever single segment runs of this game, getting a 103.53, which is now cut in half. This was also in real time. This was before load removers and everything, and all that crazy stuff. I'll link it. I should have been linking this quite a few times, but if you want to go watch this video and share it with people, because you should. It's a fantastic video. So I nitpicked it, but it's what I'm going to do, right? I've been running this game for 9 years. I know the ins and outs more than anyone should. You know, like he even says in the beginning, he strives for accuracy. He wants to present these videos and these communities the best they can because he's a lover of speedruns, the speedrun community. You know, he is a speedrunner himself, does a fantastic job at it, although he runs some very awful games. You know, so I'm sure if I'm making a nitpick, he's like, oh, you know, maybe I should have said it this way, or maybe this was something that should have been fact-checked a little more. Maybe, you know, he consulted KPC, who has a faster time than me. He probably has more time in the game than me, to be honest with you. KPC is very knowledgeable. I don't remember when KPC started in the community, but as anything in life, you know, a very niche community. If you've joined later on, you may not know the origins of how things came to be. You may not remember these old strats that came before. You might not ever know to this day that they exist, right? You might not know about incinerate skip. You might not know of the old Fort Frolic method. You might not remember Cortez and exploding cabbage, which is very ironic considering all my cabbage emotes I have now. And these guys doing crazy stuff back then that is completely irrelevant these days. And it's completely fair, you know? I'm not expecting everyone who gets into BioShock running to know these things or ever learn them or care about them. I barely care about them, but I still love the game. So I nitpick, but it's out of love, and I have no ill will against them. Tomato's a cool friend. I forgot to post that. Yeah, but go give this video a like and share it with people. It is fantastic. How many views is it up to? It's 40,000 before we even start watching. Took us 2 hours to get through a 50-minute video. 61,000, that needs to be so much higher. Let's see these comments. Any good comments down here? Literally finished this game about 2 hours ago. Love the timing. Still people playing it to this day. Awesome. Had that inspirational message in there. Yep, that was a good thing to throw in. Good stuff. Speedrunning trick names. A lot of games I run don't have incredibly crazy names these days. Like Yellow Fling, it happens here and there. But the games I run are typically just named after whatever they skip or whatever is used to skip. Like, oh, this is the Bathysphere skip. This is the Splicer Fling or whatever, right? It's... I always wanted more crazy names. I think every speedrunner wants to just name something incredibly crazy. Yo, KPC, what's up, dude? Yeah, it's like the things I nitpicked were like very minor, minute details that no one should ever know, possibly. Or just like some odd ways of saying things, but yeah, shoutouts. I don't know if you found some of the new strats that I saw. I'm assuming you did, because you find a lot of stuff, or who in the community did, but I had learned quite a bit. We're probably going to jump into some derust runs here in a second, after I fix the webcam, thank people and whatnot. I wrap this up. But that Apollo Square strat is fucking insane. so saucy. Just, you know, reading these comments, seeing what people have to say. Oh yeah, we talked about the dev contributing. I don't know if I can find that video anymore. Let me do a quick search. P. I remember it was on some old Twitch channel. I don't know if it's still up or exists anymore. Because I want to show that. I might try to find it and like link it out if I can. Because it was really fascinating. He played through like the beginning of the game up and through Arcadia. BioShock commentary of JP LeBreton. Is this it? Check out our Twitch TV page. Does this still have videos? Oh god, I don't want to hear you talk. Past broadcast. Can I go back to like 2012? 7 years ago. Oh, this might be it. Maybe. No. Yo, here we go. 10 years ago. Hold on, let me close this out. Yeah, this channel. Idle Thumbs. BioShock designer JP LeBreton. Link these. Let's see. Let's see the moment. The pivotal moment 10 years ago. You guys can't see it because it's cropped. Cropped to all hell.
Sweet bug you can use if you're speedrunning or something where time changes happen. That's
right. This was in 2012. Right. This is the video I always talked about finding. Once again, he did not come to the speedrun community and talk about it. He never approached any of us. Back then, it was basically just people in SDA and myself. And I happened to stumble across this one day.
not out of sync with a lot of that because it was just considered to be like, well, it doesn't matter what fictional wrapper we put on this. And that proved problematic later because, you know, a whole bunch of design changes happen and stuff. Not really to accommodate objectivism so much, but to just, you know, like, when the aesthetic of your game shifts, you kind of do have to shift the mechanics, honestly, you know. So yeah, we're about to get to, I kind of want to, yeah, so there's a sweet bug you can use if you're speedrunning or something, where, yeah, you can go into this room without triggering the whole getting, and if I electrobolt that door there, I will instantly load into the medical pavilion level, and that's just like a bug in how reactive actors work in our engine, but now that you know that, and you know that I'm cool, I'm not going to do that. And we'll trigger the which one of the bitches sent you cutscene, as we called it. Or not a cutscene, but...
So I found this video one day and I was watching through just listening to him talk about the game and I heard that and I was like, well, instantly I have to go try this. And found out it worked. And then once I found that, whenever it was, sometime in 2012, or I started running in 2013. So sometime in 2013 I found this. And I held on to it, which is a scummy thing to do, in hindsight. But I never used it the whole time I knew about it until I showed this game off at AGDQ 2014. The first time it was ran at a GDQ. So from the, like, whenever I found this, for months, I knew this trick existed. I never used it. I never spoke about it so that I could show it off live in front of the GDQ audience. Which I said, it's kind of scummy to hang on to, but I feel like not using it for my advantage and not telling anyone. For that moment at a GDQ for even people who had seen it, which back then speedrunning wasn't super popular. So not a lot of people, but you know, debuting a brand new trick that is a pretty crazy trick when you think about it. I felt like it was a good moment. If anyone wants to watch this, because he goes through Welcome to Rapture, Neptune's Bounty, and Arcadia. I don't think he gets past Arcadia in these videos. And I think there's one, if I'm not mistaken, I think the same channel does one for Minerva's Den with a different developer. Maybe not. Maybe it was a different different guy. I know at some point there was a playthrough of Minerva's Den with a level designer, just by a different guy. I'm gonna have to tweet this out because I think that is a really fascinating thing that many people probably don't know about this playthrough. So, yeah. Any more juicy comments down here? Wrap it up here in a second. A lot of them just, you know, great video, which I expect. Kind of aimed not towards the speedrunners or a very devout speedrunning following. Like they're, you know, they're not gonna pick this up and deep dive into it, kind of thing. I think one of the strongest things Tomato does and has a fondness for, it seems, is the diagrams, the props, that kind of stuff. Being a very visual learner, it helps out a lot. It's great. Should do more of it. Should just, honestly, I would pay for a just complete reenactment of a speedrun. He can pick whatever one he wants and just do it with props, right? I want to see him build with cardboard every level of a speedrun of a game and then use like stick figure action figures or something to detail it all. I think he could make that work. I want to become a speedrunner of some game and set a record just so Tomatoanus will ask me to write a video with him. So that's a pretty big mood. Fuck art, I'm all about dick. Yep, that's a good one. Story behind Yellow Fling is really cool. It's funny to think randomly doing it led to that. Some good stuff. Cup and cardboard explanation for Fallout 4. Yeah. Let's see. 1 second. You want to see something wild? Let me show you this. Let's see. Games Done Quick. Let's go to Games Done Quick channel. Oh, hey, there's Maxi Lips playing Fear 2. Awesome. Shouts to them. We're not here for that though. We go through their clips and search by all time. You will notice two things on this channel. The #1 clip, not to toot my own horn, is my clip from the last time I showed this game off with the cutscene skip. #1 clip on the GDQ channel, this prank. We're not going to watch that though. But #4, our boy Tomatoanus, showing off that very thing. Look who's on the couch. Look who's right behind the props. It's me. Mr. Covert Muffin. Very sexy trio right there. No one cares about this game. Don't pay attention to the game. Just the webcam over here, which is now cut off. But imagine him doing this for an entire game. Just cups, cardboards, and like a little stick man. He could just do that on GDQ stage for like 2 hours. And I'd watch it. I'd watch that over half the runs I get in, to be honest. Who the fuck decided to surf on a corpse and came to a completely logical conclusion that surfing a body could clip you through walls? I'm kind of sad they didn't show off. I don't know if there is a clip of KPC riding on the Big Daddy and like finding out about that trick. Kind of thought he'd show that. The BioShock collection is free on Epic Game Store. If you want to do the speedrun, the collection is not the way to go. It is the remastered versions of the game, which if you want to do all these crazy fun tricks, I think the splicer stuff works on the remasters, but the diary skipping and stuff and the flings do not. You want the 2007 version. Hey, I'm in this comment. I'm gonna like this comment. Found you from the GDQ Fallout Marathon. You're the only funny, not socially awkward nerd in that event, I swear. Also, shout out BioShock runners KPC BloodThunder. You compliment me in this line. You insult me in this line. You know what? I'm taking that like back. Taking it back. Wow. Wow. Why am I... Comment sections are a mistake. Get them out of here. Alright, I think I talked about that video as much as I can. Once again, shoutouts to Tomato. I did contact him before this saying, hey, I'd like to watch this on stream. I don't want to step on any toes. I don't want to steal your content or reviews or anything. So, like I said, if you do want to rewatch it, which you should, without my criticisms on top, give it a like, tell him his hair smells nice or something. Be sure to do that. So I don't want to take anything away from this because he makes great videos. He has a great one. I haven't watched the Subnautica one yet. Subnautica's great. Had a great one on Dishonored 2 recently. At some point back here, yeah, Dishonored 2, which Sarah Death helped out. Deathloop. Tons of great videos, right? Got Prey. You know, if you want to go vote in that poll for a Prey Moon Crash run, which I hold the record for, you know, maybe we do a little collab. I walk him through 7 pages that I've written out, detailed notes on how to get through the game for. Maybe you tell him to do that. But yeah, we'll get into some runs in a second. Let me turn my alerts and stuff back on.